So how are you guys? I am back again with a very fun and exciting new video, which is, what if Kurama and Minato guided Naruto to a new life? Before part 1 started, do like, share and subscribe to the channel and comment down your favorite part. Your one like and one subscribe motivate me to upload more fanfic like these for you all. So without any waste of time, now let's start the fanfic. There's the demon. Quick after it. Don't let it escape. Kill it. Damn it. Why? Why they keep on doing this? Is the thought of a kid not older than 7 years old as he tried to outrun his pursuers. His blonde hair is a mess and covered by blood. His blood, thanks to some villagers who throw a stone which hit him right on the head, although if you try to look at his head no such wound could be seen. His blue eyes show nothing but pain and sadness, pain as he had been treated so badly by someone he didn't even know. Someone who had accused him for something he never done, and sadness because he got that treatment from all of the people from his village except a few who he could count with his fingers. I've never did anything to them, heck I didn't even know them, but why? Even my own mother treat me like I'm not there. True to his thought, even his mother never show him any affection. While in one way she had never abused him physically, but her verbal abuse was bad enough. She did prepare some food for him sometimes, which is very rare, but she never want to talk to him, never want to touch him. Even when he try and gave her a present, she would either throw it away or destroy it in front of him. The boy thought was cut short as he could feel a sharp object hit his leg which made him fall to the ground, and as he looked down he could see a kunai had pierced his leg which made blood covered his leg. Got you, demon. Someone from the mob said, which he could easily identify as a shinobi from the headband on the person's arm. Alright everyone, let's avenge the fourth. With that said, peoples from the mob start to hit him with everything, from blunt thing like a wood stick till something sharp and deadly like a sword and knife. The boy just stayed there not doing anything as he know it was futile from a lot of experience he got in the past. His consciousness start to fade, but before he passed out he could heard a familiar voice which seems like a yell, and the next thing he could sense was a blue and white light which was continued by a scream of some people around him. When he realized that the mobs had stopped attacking him, he know that someone he know had saved him, which made him smile a bit before he passed out on the spot. A few minutes before, damn those villagers, they're at it again. A furious Anbu with a dog mask jumped from roof to roof with an astounding speed. Even some of his teammate had trouble on following him, but they all didn't bother to think about it. They know that their captain is really angry right now, and anger somehow could make a human pass his own limit. Naruto, please be alright until I arrive, was the only thought which the dog Anbu keep on thinking over and over again on his head. Finally he had arrived where the boy he had been looking for the last hour, but the scene was definitely not the one he want to see. The boy is lying on the ground with a kunai embedded on his leg and people around him beating the day out of him. Not able to control his anger anymore, he made some hand seals before jumping toward the mob while yelling the only word in his head. Reikiri. A streak of blue and white lightning appear on his hand and he quickly stabbed the first person he could reach. He didn't stop there as he used the same lightning on each and everyone who was beating the boy before he was finally stopped by his Anbu teammate with a weasel mask. Kakashi-san, stop it. Don't waste your time on these idiots. We need to help Naruto-san first. His voice quickly put some sense on the dog Anbu as he quickly turned toward the boy before picking him up gently and turned toward the weasel Anbu. Itachi, you better capture all those people and hand them to Ibiki, or you'll be the first on my list of people who I'll beat up after this, he said before jumping away toward the hospital, not even waiting from the response as he had already know the answer when he heard some blasts from behind which come just after the ground was shaking, a sign from a Doden just you being used. A few hours later in the hospital. Kakashi, how is Naruto doing? The said person look up from the place he was sitting to see a face of an old grandpa which he and all the people in the village refers as the Sandame Hokage. The doctor who examined him said that he had passed the critical condition, also that he was lucky I had took him as fast as I had. Kakashi said with a lot of sadness on his voice before he took sight of another person behind the Sandame and give a light smile. I need to thank you for that, Itachi. If you didn't stop me at that time, I may still try to kill all those mobs now. The weasel Anbu just nodded his head a bit. You're welcome, just like you, I also didn't like those person at all, but Naruto was in a critical condition and you're the fastest on Anbu. By the way, we had managed to capture those mobs which consist of 10 shinobis and 20 civilians. All of them are having a nice chat with Ibiki now. The three keep on chatting for a while before Sandame and Itachi decided to return back, Sandame since he had to do some paperwork while Itachi had some family business. Kakashi decided to stay and guard on Naruto since he doesn't believe the guards are some of the doctors on the hospitals, besides he doesn't had any living relative anymore so there won't be a problem for him even if he had to stay on the hospital tonight. The next morning, the boy muttered as he tried to open his eyes just to look at the familiar sight for him, the hospital ceilings. So, I'm here again huh? Just as he said those words and tried to look around, the door got slammed open and his gaze quickly went to the figure who had a silver hair which defied gravity and had almost all of his face covered by mask and Konoha headband except his right eye. Naruto, you're finally awake. How do you feel now? Kakashi asked while walking quickly toward the bed before taking a chair and sat beside the bed. Naruto looked at Kakashi's face for a moment before return his gaze at the ceiling. Well, like usual maybe. After all I always recovered fast, but I wonder if it was worth it since even if I recovered I always ended up here again and again. The tone Naruto had used really struck Kakashi since he could catch the pain and sadness Naruto had used, and although he want to try cheering him he of all the person know that Naruto's words are true. What is the meaning to had a fast healing if you will return to the hospital only a day after you got out from it? The two sat in silence before they heard a knock on the door and when the person entered Naruto smiled a bit at seeing that Sandame had gave him a visit. He had known both Sandame and Kakashi really well, to him they are a grandpa and an uncle he had never had. Well hello Oji-chan, how's the paperworks? Naruto asked while giggling which made Sandame hit his face and Kakashi laugh a bit since Naruto had heard so many complaints from the Sandame about the cage's natural enemy. Don't remind me of them Naruto, to tell you the truth I rather be out there fighting 100 shinobis than stay here and do the paperworks. Sandame said in a defeated tone, and Naruto could swear that he had heard the old man mutter something about killing himself or finding a successor only for avoiding paperworks. Well, enough about that. Now tell me how you felt Naruto, also is there anything that I can help? Sandame said trying his best to forget about the enemies waiting for him in his office. Naruto think a bit before he come to something. Something that he had planned for some time although it was not a really good one. I do have one thing to ask you Gigi. Naruto said in a sad tone. Hearing that the two adults raised their eyebrows as they never heard Naruto ask something with that kind of tone. Usually when he asked for something he would ask it with a lot of cheery energy. Seeing that Naruto is really desperate to ask help Sandame couldn't help but decided to help. Sure Naruto, now what is your wish? Sandame asked while smiling. Naruto hesitated a bit but soon he moves his body and opened a drawer next to Kakashi and pulls something from it, something that looks like a box with a ribbon attached to it. He looked toward it with a sad eyes before turning back to the adults in the room. Why you see, tomorrow is my birthdays. The two adults couldn't help but cringe at the expressions on Naruto's face. They know that to Naruto birthdays mean more extreme beatings and a lot more injuries than normal but they decided to keep silent as they know Naruto still haven't finished talking. The truth is I don't know when my mother's birthdays was so I always gave her a present in my birthdays but, Naruto couldn't help but let a single tear come out from his eyes which made Kakashi and Sandame hung their head in shame as they know what Naruto's mother had done with all the present he gave her. I want that she receive this one at the very least so. Naruto moved the hand which hold the box until it was in front of Sandame. Please, give it to her, but don't said that this is from me, tell her that this is from you, that way, she will take it with her, I hope. The last two words were very low but being experienced ninja the two still managed to heard it. Sighing Sandame put his hand on Naruto's and took the box. I understand Naruto, I will make sure that she receive this. I will give this to her myself so please cheer up okay. Naruto smiled a little as Sandame put his hand on Naruto's shoulder which made both Sandame and Kakashi smiled back at him warmly. By the way Naruto, Kakashi said trying to break the silence between them, if we're allowed to know, what is inside that box and how do you get it? Naruto looked toward the box a bit before lifting his head up trying to remember the time he found it. It was some kind of jewelry if I'm not mistaken, I found it 3 days ago after I managed to lost some peoples who tried to beat me. The place was called, Forest of the Dead, if I'm not mistaken. Two pairs' eyes bulged at hearing these. Well, 1.5 I guess. A kid not even older than 7 had gone inside a forest that was considered dangerous even for some high-level shinobis, and to know that the boy had used that place of all place to hide, definitely not a story you would hear from everyone. I didn't put it in my apartment since I'm afraid that the mob would found and took it, so I put that jewelry that day inside this drawer since I know that no one ever used this room except me. Kakashi couldn't help but surprised at the kid in front of him. For a kid not even a genin to think that far was incredible, and he had guessed correctly about this room. Ever since the beatings on Naruto become a constant problem, Sandaime had reserved this room for Naruto so Naruto would be able to get a medical treatment every time he got beaten. Heck, he even threatened some doctors and nurses that if they try anything funny they would be kicked out from the hospital and got punished for some time. I see. Is there anything else that I can help Naruto? Sandaime asked again, but Naruto just shook his head. Instead he tried to get off the bed, and after finding out that he had recovered he said a quick goodbye to the two adults and run out of the hospital, leaving Kakashi and Sandaime inside, who smiled a bit at the door where Naruto had left before disappeared in a puff of smoke. A few moments later, in a different part of Konoha, Naruto could be seen coming inside his apartment room. Ever since Sandaime know about the way his mother Kushina act toward Naruto, he decided that it would be better for Naruto to live by himself, so he get Naruto a room in an apartment which located the closest to Hokage mansion. This way Sandaime always managed to meet Naruto every day, and if something happened to Naruto he could act as soon as possible, especially with Kakashi and a few loyal Anbu decided to live on the Anbu complex, which is not far from the apartment Naruto lived. I guess today is the day, huh? Naruto thought sadly while moving his bed and pull out the wooden board under it to reveal a bag and a letter. It was a hard decision for Naruto, but he can't stand the beatings anymore, so after a lot of thinking he decided to left the village no matter how much he want to stay, as he don't want to make the people who cared for him sad. Naruto's thoughts soon come to the images of people who actually cares for him. Sandaime Jiji, Inu-san, he doesn't know his true name yet, Weasel-san, Tuki Jiji, Ayame Nichan, Haruka-sensei. His thoughts soon come toward a few Anbu who like to play with him sometimes, but the last image on his thought was the one who hit him the most, his mother. Although it may be true that she had never acted like a good mother to him, heck, she even give him verbal abuses a lot of time, but she had never done any physical abuses toward May, had destroyed every presents he had gave to her, but sometimes she also made some food for him. Although it was always done when he was asleep, but he knows one time he was unable to sleep and he heard a voice in the kitchen, so he decided to peek and he could see his mother prepare a food for him and left soon after she done. It may only happen a very few times, maybe only twice or thrice a month, but at least she did cared for him even only a little. But it will only be a memory since now he is going to left the village. It's true that he will return one day, but he's still afraid about it. What if they still think that he is a demon? What if they still want to beat him and kill him? One though once come to his mind to change his appearance so everyone won't know who he is, but if he did that, then what will happen to the people cared for him? They won't know it was him, and if he tell them the truth, then what if someone actually heard about it and everyone know if he had returned? Naruto sighed at all of this thoughts, but soon he shook his head and took the bag which he had prepared days before for today. He also took the letter and silently opened the door of his apartment. After seeing that the area is clear, he left quickly and go sneak toward the Hokage's mansion. It was already dark when he left, that and combined with his pranking habit which increase his stealth a lot, he managed to sneak inside and toward the Hokage's room. There was another reason is why he had asked his Oji-san to give the box to his mother. Knowing him, he would think hard about how to give it to her and also to tell her that the present was given by her son without her destroying it, no matter that Naruto had asked him not to. Naruto was really lucky today as the Hokage's room was empty, so after putting the letter on his desk, Naruto sneak out from the mansion before running toward the gate stealthily. In a few moments Naruto had managed to left Konoha without getting spotted, as there seems to be a commotion happening inside, and combined with people busy for the festival, it was not a hard job for a kid who managed to run from Anbu for hours to break out unnoticed. This is it, now I just had to run as fast I can so I won't get caught. Naruto thought as he run passing tree after tree, but soon he stopped when he heard some footsteps behind him. Oh no, don't tell me they had found out. I need to hide quickly. Naruto quickly got inside a bush and covered himself. It was an easy job remembering that he's still a kid and the bush was quite thick. Soon Naruto could see the source of the footsteps, but he was surprised that the person in front of him is not a Konoha ninja since he had a different symbol on his headband. The person wears some ninja clothing similar to Anbu, as the only difference where his cloth had used black on every part of it. Not only that, he also wear a mask that looks exactly like Kakashi's, but what made Naruto's curiousness increase was the things he carried. It looks like a kid who is younger than himself. The kid had a long black hair which fall to the person's waist as he carried that kid on his shoulder. This kid, which Naruto identifies as a female thanks to the long hair, had her hand tied up and her mouth gagged, which give Naruto one assumption. This guy is kidnapping her. Too bad for Naruto since he didn't realize that he had stepped on a stick, which made the man drop the girl, which seems to be conscious, and put his attention on the grass. Naruto is in. Crap, he find out about me. I need to run. Naruto's thought got cut short as the man quickly pull a kunai and throw it toward the bush, but thanks to his experience of running from the people who want to beat him, ironically, he managed to dodge at the last second. But the problem is that now the man had spotted him clearly. What? It's just a kid. The man sighed in a relief. At this moment Naruto took another glance at the girl, and since she was also looking at him, he could identify from her eyes that she is a Hyuga since she had the same eyes as his classmate Hinata. He could see a bit similarity of this girl with Hinata, but his thought was cut as he spotted that the man had pulled another kunai. Sorry kid, but my orders was not to let any witnesses alive. With that said, another kunai fly toward Naruto, but once again Naruto managed to avoid it as it hit the tree behind him, which irritate the man who pull his blade got into a stance to attack. Naruto don't know what had got into him, but the second he saw the man coming toward him with a sword, he quickly turned around to pull the kunai behind him and duck to avoid the sword. This time the man managed to scratch him, but only a little. Naruto quickly swing the kunai in his hand randomly, and since the man didn't thought that the kid in front of him would fight back, Naruto managed to hit the man at the leg since the man didn't avoid fast enough. If the man was irritated before, now he is really pissed. He managed to sneak inside Konoha and come out after kidnapping this Hyuga girl without being spotted, and now a kid who barely know how to use a kunai had hit him. The man quickly pull out some chakra, not even thinking about being spotted by Konoha ninja. This kid had ruined his pride and he will pay for it. Naruto realized that the man was getting serious as he could see that the man is performing some hand seals. He know that whatever the man was planning won't be good for him and he had to evade it, but it was all too late as the man had stopped making hand seals and is looking toward him in rage. Kaden, Karyuenden. The man yelled as he pulled his mask and let loose a raging fire dragon toward the boy in front of him. Not even cared that he had used a high-ranked jutsu just to kill a kid not even half his age. No, the only thing he cares is that the boy is going to die, and he smirked evilly as the dragon hit the kid directly and he could heard the boy's scream from inside of the flame. The little girl watched in shock as the boy in front of her had got hit by a fire dragon. She started to cry as she thought that she was the reason that the boy had died. If only he didn't met this man who had kidnapped her. If only that this man wasn't told to kill all witnesses. If only she hadn't been kidnapped on the first place. She keep on crying as she see that the man is walking toward her with a wicked smile on his face, but soon she stopped crying as the man had also stopped walking as both of them both realized something. The man stopped walking as he realized that there's a blast of chakra behind him from where the boy was standing, and there are two problems with these. 1. The boy could stand from dying after get hit by a blast of a high-level Kaden jutsu, and 2. This blast of chakra he felt is definitely not a normal one, and he swear that even a Konoha genin could feel this pressure. The girl stopped crying as she could see something behind the man in front of her. She could see something which looks like a bright yellow light. She doesn't know about chakra yet, coming from inside of the smoke which are created from the blast of the fire dragon, but that isn't the one which scared her. It is two red lights which looks like a pair of eyes that she had took a glimpse when a wind removed the smoke a little. The man quickly turned around as fast as he can, but to no avail as the last thing he could see was a bright yellow streak coming toward him, and the next thing he know his stomach had been pierced through by something. He managed to grip it a little and he could feel fur. The girl doesn't look better herself. Just a moment ago she had felt sad that she had made a boy get killed. Next she felt a bit happy since the boy seems to be alive. If the yellow light was any indication, now she is scared shitless as the man who kidnapped her had been killed with just one blow. The problem is that when the man falls she couldn't see any sign of the boy. Instead the one she see in front of her is One big yellow fox around the size of a normal dog from the Inuzuka clan, as big as Kuromaru from the invasion, with its right hand full of blood of the man it had just killed. That didn't scared her much, but when she saw its eyes was when she got scared very much, as the eyes are as red as the blood on its paw, the eyes that seems to belong to the demon itself. I'm not trying to make reason for my bad grammar, but I think I had to make a few statement. First, I'm not living in a country where English is the primary language. Second, most of my English ability was created through my hobby of reading fanfics like this, so I guess that made my writing ability a bit crappy. I can read English quite well, yes, but if you asked me to write, don't expect a good one in the grammar. And third, I'm writing this fanfic while using a dictionary to find the English translation for the word I want to use, thus making my grammar and structure worse. So I want to apologize to peoples who like my story but can't stand on reading my crappy grammar. One of my reviewers in another story I made told me to find a beta, but the truth is I'm completely blind about it, so if there's anyone kind enough to help me about it or even want to be my beta the first, really appreciated that. Well, that's enough of me ranting about everything, so let's just go on with the story. Happy reading. Disclaimer. Should I said it again? Well, here goes. I don't own Naruto and the blah 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 stuff. Damn it, damn it, damn it. The thought kept being repeated inside Naruto's head as he kept running as fast as he could without any real direction. He couldn't help but to remember about the thing that had just happened a moment ago, since from all the bad experience he had ever had until now, this one was definitely the worst. So, it's true after all. I am a demon. That's why those people wanted to kill me. Tears fell from his eyes as his thought returned to the peoples inside the Konoha wall. The peoples who had tried at least once to kill him every time he was alone. He continued to run while closing his eyes, not even cared if he hit something, although he was lucky, or unlucky, as a moment later his legs slipped and he was thrown quite hard into a shallow river in front of him. Naruto slowly stood up while coughing as water had got inside his mouth. After managed to stood back, he just stayed there with tears still flowing from his closed eyes. Little by little he tried to open his eyes, and not long afterwards he became face to face with the water below him, or to be more precise, his own reflection. Flashback. What was that? What happened? Naruto looked around in confusion as he could felt that his vision had become blurry thanks to some liquid on his eyes, although he didn't know what the liquid was. Trying to fix it, Naruto closed his eyes while shaking his head, but it still didn't work, so he decided to scrub his eyes, and when he did it he realized something was wrong with his body. He was standing on all four, his face seemed to be different, and the hand he had used to scrub his eyes feels like furs. He tried to open his eyes again and succeeded, only to realize that he was standing face to face with the little girl from before. The girl had her gaze focused on him, but there was something about it that made him feel uneasy. A strange smell soon took his attention, and it made him turn his gaze toward the source, which he recognized as the man who had tried to kidnap the girl. At first Naruto thought that the man had passed out when he saw him lying on the ground, but he realized that it wasn't the case as he could see a hole on his stomach. Realization soon dawned to him that the man was dead. Afraid of this, Naruto slowly moved back, only to stop when he stepped on something that seemed to be a puddle. The problem was that Naruto had walked on that area just before he met these two, and he was sure that there was no puddle on the ground. He slowly looked downward, and what he saw shocked him to the core. He saw that his hands were no longer hands, instead he could saw that they had changed into two yellow paws. As if it was not bad enough, he could saw that his paw was touching a puddle of red liquid which also covered his right hand, or should he said, paw. It didn't took him long to realize that the red liquid was actually blood, as he had seen it a lot of time when he was beaten, and that was when his brain start to process everything he had saw before he found out the painful truth. He had killed the man. No, this is a joke, right? Naruto turned his gaze back at the little girl in front of him. He could see that the girl still had the same gaze which she had before, but now he knew what that gaze meant. The girl was afraid of him. Realizing this, Naruto slowly stepped back as a word suddenly came to his mind, a word he had heard so many times. Demon. Am I a demon? That thought hit him hard. Soon he closed his eyes and shook his head in frustration, not even realizing that tears had started to pour from his eyes, something which the girl didn't miss thanks to her gaze plastered on the yellow fox in front of her. The girl's expression softened a bit as she saw this and couldn't help but thought that maybe this fox was not as bad as it seems. Her thought was cut short though as it suddenly turned around and started running away. MMPH. She tried to call it but soon realized that the gag on her mouth prevented her from doing so, and soon the only thing she saw was a bright yellow streak which kept going farther and farther. End of flashback. Naruto slowly walked away from the river, still drenched from head to toe thanks to the impact of his fall before. His thought wandered back to the reflection of himself which he saw on the water. His body had changed into the same being which had destroyed Konoha 7 years ago. His body had changed into a fox, a big yellow fox with red eyes. A moment later all insults he had received when he was still in Konoha came back to his mind. Kill the demon. You'll pay for what you've done, demon. We'll avenge Yondaime and everyone you've killed now. The word, demon, kept being resounded in Naruto's mind over and over. Finally he couldn't took it anymore and yelled out in frustration, Althaug for anyone not far enough to hurt it. It was more like a sad howl. Naruto passed out soon after, only to regain consciousness a moments later in a very different place. Where am I? Naruto tried to pull himself up while rubbing his head when he found out that his hands seemed to be normal. He opened his eyes quickly and examined his body to find out that he was no longer a fox, which made him sigh in relief. Soon afterwards he scanned the area around him and realized that he was in some kind of a sewer. He was still confused when he spotted a light far away from him. Seeing no other way he decided to walk toward it, only to ended up in a room with a huge cage which had a little paper with the kanji, seal, in the middle of it. Feeling confused by it, Naruto moved forward toward the cage only to stop when he spotted something which looks like big red eyes inside it, the eyes which were very similar with the one he saw on his reflection. What do we have here? The little jailer had came to give me a visit. A voice came from inside of the cage. Who's there? Naruto yelled while moving away from the gate only to trip and fell on his butt when a big claw came out from the cage and nearly hit him. You don't have any right to question me, you puny human. The voice said before Naruto could saw a figure started to appear from inside of the cage. The figure which looked like a big red fox who bare its fang toward him, although the one which caught Naruto's attention was the 9 blood red tails between its back legs. What? Too scared to talk, human? Okay, Naruto was pissed. He didn't know who this fox, but it had gone too far. It had tried to attack him when he asked who it was, and now it mocked him just because he had stayed silent for a moment. Shut up, you stupid fox. Naruto shouted while pulling himself up. For your information, I'm not afraid of you, and on top of that I'm a demon and not human. The fox just laughed when it heard Naruto's statement before it returned its gaze right toward Naruto's eyes. You, a demon? Ha, don't make me laugh, stupid human. If there's a demon here, then that would be me. The great Kyuubi no Kitsune. The fox stated proudly without moving its gaze from Naruto. On the other hand, Naruto was a bit surprised at those statement, but soon he decided to speak again. You're lying. I turned into a demon just now and killed a man. Beside, the Kyuubi was killed by Yondaime. Fools. The only thing you turned into was nothing but a fox. And for your information, no one can kill a demon. Not even the Yondaime. The only thing he could do was sealing me. What? Naruto just stayed there dumbfounded while trying to process the fact he had just heard when a realization struck him. The Yondaime sealed the Kyuubi away. The villager called him a demon. He was born on the day of the Kyuubi's attack. He sealed you inside me, didn't he? Naruto turned his gaze back at Kyuubi to saw it nodded its head slowly, which made Naruto drop to his knee and hung his head down. So, it was true after all. I am a demon. Stupid human. Didn't I told you that you're not a demon? I am the only demon here. Kyuubi yelled again. It may be a demon, but truth to be told, it had a sympathy for this child. Not only Kyuubi, all other demons out there won't even hurt a child if they could, as children were quite rare in the demon realm, so in one way humans are more evil than demons. Naruto lifted his head slowly until he was face to face with Kyuubi. They stayed in silence for a moment when the memory of what happened before returned to his mind. But I've just turned into a fox and killed someone. I didn't even remembered how I did it, how I can be a human if I could did that. His voice was low, but Kyuubi still managed to heard it as it just sighed before speak again. Well Kit, the reason why you didn't remember killing that man was because you had fallen into a berserk state when you activated your power. And about how you turned into a fox, you better ask the person behind me yourself. Naruto was totally surprised by this. The way Kyuubi called him had changed and its voice seems to be more kind. But the other statement was the one which took his attention. There was another person here. Naruto quickly looked around the cage until he spotted a figure which started to walk closer toward the bar, and when the figure was close enough, Naruto's jaw fell to the floor before he pointed at the figure while yelling one word, "Yo, Yondaime." Konoha village at the moment. Sandaime couldn't help but fell to his chair when he reached his office. A lot of problems had appeared in just one day. The village was in uproar when a Kumo ninja had tried for the second time to kidnap the Hyuga and almost succeeded in doing so. A really powerful blast of chakra was sensed from the forest, and when Anbu examined it, they found said kidnapper dead with a hole on his stomach, while the Hyuga he kidnapped, which was the second daughter of the Hyuga head, was found without a scratch on her body. To make things worse, when she was asked about what had happened, she only said that she was saved by a boy who transformed into Big Yellow Fox before said fox ran away. Hiyashi was really happy that her daughter was rescued, but the council was quite angry that of all things it must be a fox who had saved her. Some of them even gave stupid comments that they should find that fox and kill it for defiling one of Konoha's elite clan's heiress. A comment which made them appointed to the hospital, as one angry Hyuga Hiyashi had closed all their tenketsus for giving such comments about his daughter's savior, before reminding them that if not for that fox, Kumo would have managed to obtain the Byakugan, and they won't know which village had done it, as the identity of the kidnapper was only known after they had found his body. And now here we had one tired Sandaime on his chair trying to remember everything which had happened before. His thought lingered toward the boy who had transformed into a fox to save the Hyuga heiress. There was only one person he knew who was able to turn into a fox. The problem is that the person was dead, so the only possibility left was his son, although there is also a possibility that there's another person who's able to change into a fox as well. But after hearing that the one who turned into the fox was a boy, there were almost no doubt in his mind that that man's son was the one who had saved her. The only problem was that said boy was supposed to be inside Konoha's wall when that happened, not outside. His thought was cut short when an Anbu with a dog mask appeared in his office. It was easy to know that the Anbu was tired, as he was panting and breathing heavily. "So, did you find him, Kakashi?" Sandaime asked with a lot of concern on his voice. Kakashi took a glance of Sandaime's expression before he hung his head down, finding the ground to be very interesting. No, Sandaime-sama, I've used up all my chakra to create as many Kage Bunshin as I could to find him. The same was done by Itachi and some other Anbu, but we couldn't find him anywhere. Sandaime pulled his head down before standing up and turned his body to face the window. "I see, you can go home and rest. Tell that to the other Anbu too." But Sandaime-sama," Kakashi yelled. "No, but Kakashi, if my thought was right, Naruto is already out of our reach now. My only hope is that he could take care of himself and return here someday." Sandaime-sama, what do you mean by that?" Kakashi asked in a low voice. He might be tired now and Naruto might had left the village hours ago, but he is an Anbu captain while Naruto is only a kid. He was sure that he could find Naruto and bring him back to the village if he could got the permission. Sandaime turned his body and faced Kakashi once more before sighing. "I'm going to tell you a secret now, Kakashi, but promise me that you won't told anyone about it, as this is an SS class secret which is even bigger than the Kyuubi." Sandaime cursed in his mind, as he really didn't want to tell anyone about this, but if he didn't, he was sure that Kakashi would insist on finding Naruto. Fine, Sandaime-sama." Kakashi quickly agreed, since from the tone Sandaime used he knew that the secret he was about to listen must be really important. Seeing this, Sandaime decided to speak again. "Now do you remember your former sensei's Hiraishin no Jutsu?" Yes, I remember, but what about it? Now tell me, Kakashi, don't you feel that it is strange that he had never taught anyone about how to use it? Not even Jiraiya. Kakashi was surprised by this, but soon he realized that it was indeed strange. Sensei may thought that it will be dangerous if he taught it to just anybody, but he did taught me and Jiraiya-sama his other move, the Rasengan, so why could it be that the seal was too complicated? But Jiraiya-sama is a seal expert and also his teacher, so that must not be the problem. But what else could be the reason? Could it be that it was because no one could use it except him? If that was the case, then it could be logical that he never taught it to anybody, but what kind of jutsu that can only be used by certain person? That when the answer hit him about why Yondaime never taught anyone how to use Hiraishin, bloodline limit. Sandaime nodded his head as he heard those words came from Kakashi's mouth. He saw the disbelief which was plastered on his face. It was not surprising since thanks to his promise with his former successor he had never told anyone that Naruto was really the Yondaime's son, as he feared that Naruto will be killed by Iwa or being trained to be a mindless weapon. He simply said that Yondaime's child had died in childbirth and that Yondaime had took Naruto since he was an abandoned child, but also told everyone that Yondaime wanted his wife to took him as her son and that Naruto should be seen as a hero, something which had failed thanks to those stupid villagers who couldn't saw the difference between a prisoner and a jailer. Kakashi stood there in silence, but soon his thought returned to the blast of chakra he sensed a few moments ago. Now that he thought about it, it felt similar with the one he felt when his sensei used his famous move. So that mean, Naruto is really sensei's son. Again Sandaime nodded his head, but before he could said or did anything he had his collar being pulled by one angry Kakashi who yelled at him about why he never told anyone about this. Kakashi soon stopped his yelling when Sandaime explained about the promise Yondaime had asked him before his death. After hearing that, Kakashi released Sandaime from his pull before moved toward the window and gazed at the village while Sandaime returned to his desk as if realizing something. They stayed in silence for some time before Kakashi sensed that Sandaime was walking toward him before putting one hand on his shoulder. Don't worry Kakashi, Naruto will return one day. He promised to do that and he will never broke his promise. Kakashi turned toward Sandaime again to saw that Sandaime was holding a letter on his hand before he gave it toward Kakashi and told him to take a rest. Kakashi slowly nodded his head before disappeared in a smoke while Sandaime returned to his desk to finish the paperworks. Back to Naruto. Today could be the strangest day for Naruto. It all began with him leaving Konoha, which continued by him turning into a fox and killed somebody. Next he passed out after running without direction for hours only to woke up inside a sewer where he found out that he had the big bad Kyuubi sealed inside him, and now he realized that Kyuubi was not the only one sealed inside him, as in front of him he saw his idol figure, the Yondaime himself. Oh, okay, I'm totally confused now. What is the meaning of this and why Yondaime is here, sealed inside my body? Naruto said in confusion while Yondaime shook his head trying to find out how to told him without making him mad, while Kyuubi just snickered at the scene in front of it. Realizing that silent won't solve anything, Yondaime started to spoke. Okay Naruto, I think you better sit down for a moment as this is gonna be a long one. Thankfully that done the job as Naruto nodded his head and sat down, not even cared about getting soaked by the water below him. Good, now I'll start from the beginning, so listen carefully, okay? Seeing Naruto nodded his head, Yondaime started speaking again. Well, first you know me as Namikaze Minato, the Yondaime Hokage. Minato pointed toward himself. Now your question was what I'm doing here getting sealed inside you, right? At this Naruto nodded again. Minato shook his head a bit before gazing upward trying to remember that day. Well, you know, at that time to seal Kyuubi here I summoned the Shinigami to help via Shikifuin. At first I thought that I will die after the sealing, but it seemed that the Shinigami had a bad sense of humor. At this both Minato and Kyuubi sighed while Naruto just tilted his head in confusion. You see, Shikifuin was actually a way to seal a soul by sacrificing the soul of the user. The problem was that although it was called sealing, the soul wasn't supposed to be contained in something like what happened to Kyuubi. What do you mean? Isn't that what a seal supposed to do? Naruto asked. Well, normal seal yes. But Shikifuin is no normal seal. Naruto looked even more confused, but before he could ask, Minato had spoke again. The Shikifuin is a seal which will seal the soul of the target and the user inside the Shinigami's stomach, where the two souls will fight for eternity. Fight, for eternity. Yup, now the problem here is that I couldn't sealed Kyuubi inside myself since my body won't stand it and I'll probably die before it was complete, as the only one could hold the power of Kyuubi as a newborn child. So, you choose as me? Naruto asked with a bit anger this time. Yes, and for what reason? I'll tell you that later, but now let's go back to the subject. After I did that, Kyuubi's soul was sealed inside you, so the question is if mine got sealed inside Shinigami's stomach, what will I be doing now? Naruto got confused at this and started thinking his soul was supposed to fight Kyuubi's for eternity, but Kyuubi's soul was sealed inside me so, nothing. Minato grinned a bit after. Hearing that, bingo, I was supposed to do nothing as I won't have any soul to fight but that Shinigami Temp Kyuubi and Naruto sweat dropped when Minato said this, said that it won't be fair so I don't know Shinigami's gender so I'll stick with a male, change the rule a bit so instead of being sealed inside his stomach he sealed both my soul and Kyuubi's inside you. You deserved it anyway for trying to trick Shinigami-sama. Kyuubi said while hit Minato's head with its paw. What was that you overgrown furball? Minato yelled and kicked Kyuubi's paw which made Naruto sweat dropped since the two suddenly started to brawl while yelling at each other, in one way they do fight for eternity. Was the only thought crossed his mind before he finally had enough at the fight in front of him. Alright, stop at this instant. You still had to explain why you picked me as the container. The two quickly stopped fighting when they heard this and quickly faced Naruto once more. Jez, can't you said that louder? Seems your appearance wasn't the only thing you got from your stupid father. Kyuubi said while using one of its tail to clean its ears and another to smack Minato's head. What? He's my father. Naruto yelled while pointing at Minato while said person just faced Kyuubi with an irritated look. Great job you stupid fox. Well thank you for your praise. Kyuubi said his sarcastic tone. Minato was about to said something again but realized now is not the time for that. Minato slowly turned back to his son, while scratching his head. Well, guess you found out now son. What do you mean, you found out son? How could you did that to me? Do you know how painful my life was because of this? Naruto yelled. I know. Minato said simply. Yes there's no way you would. Wait, no. Naruto's yell stopped quickly and when he took a glance at his father he could saw that he seemed really sad. Yes, I know it Naruto. The truth is both Kyuubi and me can see whatever you see outside so we know everything about your childhood, and about those stupid villagers. Minato said the last word with venom on his voice. Believe it or not Naruto, I had personally told Sandame Gigi before I died to tell the villagers to see you as a hero but it seemed that I had made a really big miscalculations. Minato couldn't help but put his head down in shame which made Naruto's opinion toward him quickly change. Well, I guess it's alright then. But tell my one thing please, why me? Minato rose his head slowly until his gaze returned back to Naruto. That's because I was a Hokage Naruto, I couldn't sacrifice another people's child if I can help it. Besides, I believe in you Naruto, I believe that you will be able to use Kyuubi's power for good and that you won't use it to do something worse than what Kyuubi here had done. Minato's words got two different reactions, an understanding nod from Naruto and a hit on the head from Kyuubi. Stupid fox. What did you hit me for now? For those comment you just gave. I had told you before that I was tricked when I attacked Konoha, Kyuubi yelled while smacking Minato's head once more. You were tricked? Naruto asked while tilting his head. Kyuubi sighed a bit before turning its gaze toward Naruto. Well long story short, around 7 years ago a man named Orochimaru came and asked me to give him power but since I refused he killed all my kids when I left to find some food for them. Driven by anger I went to Konoha to demand that they gave that snake bastard to me so I could kill him but just as I arrived at Konoha several ninja attacked me so I fought back and soon all of Konoha ninjas start attacking me until this so-called Yondaime came at me on top of a big frog. Hey, I didn't know that either. Besides, I told all my ninja to stand on guard and don't attack unless you attack first. Those ninjas that attacked you must be Orochimaru's underlings. Minato yelled trying to stated that it was not his fault. Oh, okay, Naruto said. Oh by the way Naruto there's still another thing I need to tell you, it's about your transformation. Minato quickly turned his gaze from Kyuubi. Oh that's right, Naruto hung his head as those words had made him remember the man he had killed. Realized this Minato quickly tried to help. Hey Naruto. Naruto raised his head to face his father. Listened here okay. You may had killed that man but it was for the best. If you didn't killed him he would have killed you and next he will take that Hyuga girl away and make her into either a breeding factory or a lab rat. After hearing that Naruto thought for a moment and couldn't help but agree with his father. He may had killed someone but it was for a good reason. He didn't really cared about himself but that girl was still little and there is no way Naruto would let anything happen to her if he could help it. Naruto let a small smile graced his lip before he suddenly remembered something. Wait a sec, that girl. I left her in that forest alone. Naruto panicked all of a sudden as he remembered that the girl was still tied up and gagged. Minato and Kyuubi both saw this and sighed. Calm yourself, will you? Before you left I felt some Anbu were moving toward that direction, they must have helped her already. You're sure? Naruto asked quickly. Don't worry Naruto, they might not know where the girl was but those chakra you blast away before the transformation was strong enough to destroy the house. I'm sure that at least one Anbu had been sent to check it. Naruto sighed in relief, at least the girl is safe now. Seeing Naruto had calmed down, Minato decided to continue his explanation. Well, now let's continue. Okay, you see, the reason your body turned into a fox out there was because you had accidentally activate your bloodline limit. Bloodline limit? Naruto asked confused. Yup, watch this. Minato closed his eyes and before long yellow chakra start coming out from his body and covered him completely. When the yellow chakra disappeared, Minato was no longer there. Instead there was another fox besides Kyuubi, a yellow fox to be precise. The fox opened his eyes to show its slitted blue sea pupil toward Naruto, who just standing there with his mouth opened. See that? Incredible, isn't it? Minato chuckled while Naruto just nodded his head before he realized something. Dad, why your eyes still blue? If I'm not wrong my eyes turned red when I became a fox. That would be my fault. Kyuubi said, which made the two faced toward it. You see, when you activated your bloodline somehow you also called upon my chakra. It was not much but it still made some change at your body, which is why your eyes became red, and it was also the reason why you fell into a berserk state in the first place. So, every time I transform I will berserk again. Naruto was worried if that is true, that mean he must make sure that he won't transform ever again. Don't worry about that Naruto, Minato spoke, cutting Naruto's thought. The only reason why you became like that was that you received a lot stress from transforming for the first time, that and combined with Kyuubi's chakra made your mind gone blank and thus you fell into a berserk state. In other words, the next time you transform you will be able to control yourself, not like last time. Kyuubi added. I understand. So, what will we do now? Naruto asked, as the truth is he had never had a plan after leaving Konoha, not only that his bag had also been destroyed thanks to that Kaden jutsu. Well, the first things we need to do is take you to my realm, Kyuubi stated. What she meant is that we're going to another dimension, there both me and Kyuubi could train you without anyone to interfere. Minato explained after he changed his body back. Oh, I understand now. Wait. You mean, it's a female? Yup. Hard to believe, isn't it? By the way, your reaction just now was exactly the same as mine when I found out about it. Minato said while holding his mouth, trying to hold his giggle which failed miserably. If you thought that is strange, wait until you found out about that. Minato thought while looking at Naruto, waiting for his next expression. That's because you human are simple-minded fools who thought that male are always stronger than female. Kyuubi yelled before her. I'm going to refer to Kyuubi as female from now on. Body became engulfed by flame which gradually became smaller until it was the same height as Naruto. When the flame died out, Naruto could see a figure coming out from it. The figure was a female with long blood red hair which reached her waist. She had a slim body with a tanned skin and eyes with blazing red pupils. She wore a red kimono with flame pattern all over it. She also had a pair of fox-like ears on top of her head and 9 bushy reed tails behind her. But there's one thing that took Naruto's attention from the first time he saw her. Damn, you're really short for a demon who already had children. Naruto said while putting his hand on Kyuubi's head, who had pretty much the same height as him, not even conscious about the tick marks which appeared on Kyuubi's head, nor Minato, who had fell to the ground while laughing like there is no tomorrow. Shut up. Kyuubi yelled while throwing balls of flame toward Naruto, who was running for his dear life before she finally stopped by Minato, who had managed to stop laughing although he was still unable to stop his giggle. Okay giggle, let's stop this now. Minato said while holding Kyuubi's arm, trying to stop her from throwing another fireball at his poor son, who was trying to catch his breath after the little exercise he just had. You see here Naruto, I really don't know why this happened, but it seems when I sealed Kyuubi inside you, her body somehow being reverted into your age, and that's why this little missy is he. Minato's words got cut short as he suddenly felt an extraordinary pain on his family jewel thanks to a well-placed kick Kyuubi had given him. Her power is still the same, though. Naruto's sweat dropped at seeing that his father, the great Yondaime Hokage, had been beaten with only one well-placed kick, although he definitely didn't want to be on his father's place now. Well, that's that, now let's go to the main business. Kyuubi said while started forming hand seals before her red chakra flowed toward the whole room and covered everything on its path. Soon the chakra started to glow and a bright light appeared from nowhere, which made Naruto closed his eyes for a moment, and when he opened it back he saw that he was no longer in the sewer, instead he was in a place which looks like a big forest. Where am I? Naruto spoke to himself when he heard a voice from his mind. This is my realm, we should be able to train here without trouble as there is no other people here. Kyuubi stated. Oh, K, by the way, how come I can hear your voice while you're in my head, and where's Dad? First, both me and your father can speak to you a long time ago if we wanted to, but your father forbid me, saying that it will freak you out. Oh, and you don't have to speak in order to talk with us, you only need to think about it and we could hear it. And about your father, he's still on the ground holding his jewel sai, maybe I hit him too hard. Well, that's alright, I guess. Well, now let's get the training begin. Naruto could felt that sweat had began pouring behind his head as a thought crossed his mind, this is not gonna be good. Okay, that's enough for today. Finally, Naruto quickly dropped himself on the ground as soon as the red-haired beauty decided to give him some rest. It's been 3 days since the hellish training had begun and somehow Minato had found a way to let Kyuubi out. He managed to find a way for Kyuubi to create a summoning contract just for herself. In other words, all Naruto could summon is Kyuubi, but it's enough for now, and thankfully Kyuubi can change her body so she could appear as a small red fox with one tail instead the big bad fox she was when she attacked Konoha. Too bad that Minato couldn't do the same for himself, so he is stuck on Naruto's mind, but it wasn't that much of a problem, especially after Kyuubi taught Naruto that he could change the landscape on his mind, so instead of a sewer his mind now looks like a big forest with a house near it. Seeing that Naruto is pretty beat up, Kyuubi just shook her head before standing up and walking toward the forest. I'm going somewhere for a moment, you can do anything you like, but I suggest that you should rest so you'll have enough energy for the next training. Naruto just nodded his head as he is too tired to reply. A moment later Kyuubi had disappeared from his sight, and when he decided to sleep he could heard his father spoke to him. Naruto, do you have a moment? Minato asked. Huh, what is it, Dad? The truth is I have something to talk to you, but I didn't want Kyuubi to hear it, so I decided to wait until she is asleep or go somewhere else like now. Minato said with a serious tone which took Naruto's interest. Okay, so what is it about? Minato sighed a bit before he started to speak. It's about your mother. I want to apologize to you about how she had acted toward you all those times. The truth is I couldn't believe it myself that she would acted like that. I had known her for such a long time, so I thought that she would help you no matter what, but I guess I was wrong. Naruto stayed silent for a moment as he tried to remember everything that had happened between him and his mother before smiling sadly while looking at the sky. Don't worry, Dad, I don't have any grudge toward her. I bet she was just sad at everything she lost when Kyuubi attacked, and maybe she remembered those every time she saw me, so. Naruto couldn't finish his words as a tear come out from his eye as his mind returned to the way her mother had acted toward him all those years, especially on his birthdays when he tried to give her some presents which she never took. Naruto rubbed his eyes with his cloth before gazing at the sky once more. It's okay, Dad. Like I said before, I didn't hated her, and I'm sure deep down she still cared for me. She did prepared meal for me sometimes. I just hope that she will accept me as her son when we return to Konoha. I know she will, Naruto, I know she will. Minato said with a smile which made Naruto smile too. They stayed there in silence before Minato decided to speak again. Okay, now stand up, Naruto. We had some training to do. What? Hey Dad, I'm still resting here. Naruto protested. No excuse there, young man. I know you had recovered since I'm inside your body, so move your ass or I'll tell Kyuubi to increase her training schedule. Minato said while chuckling as Naruto grumbled a bit before standing up on his foot. At the same time in Konoha, one Sandaime Hokage sat down on his chair while examining the paperworks on his desk. He stopped after some time before leaning back and let out a sigh. After Naruto had left, things changed a lot in Konoha. Although he had told Kakashi and the other not to tell anyone about Naruto leaving, it seems that everyone had started to suspected it. Everywhere in Konoha is very calm now, or should he said, as silent as a graveyard. The only sound he could heard is when he passed by people's chatting, and even that didn't come close to all the laugh and yelling when Naruto tried to run away from his prank victims. The village had somehow lost its cheerfulness, as everyone in the village only do their daily works monotonously every single day without anything interesting ever happened. Sandaime sighed again before putting his gaze on the ceiling while remembering all those days when Naruto was still inside the village. Even if no one wanted to admit it, Naruto is needed to bring cheerfulness to this village, although he could bring anger to the victims of his pranks too. Sandaime chuckled a bit at remembering all those pranks Naruto did before he stopped as a knock was heard from the door in front of him. "Come in." With that said, the person slowly came inside the office and walked toward the Sandaime. "Kushina, do you have any problem you want to ask me?" The woman in front of him raised her eyebrows a bit before speaking. "Cut it, Hokage-sama, I'm sure you know why I'm here." "I'm sorry, but I don't think I understand." Sandaime said, playing dumb. The truth is, he know exactly why Kushina is here. Naruto had gone way too long and had never been seen for some time, not even in the hospital or in the Ichiraku Ramen, two places where you could always find him on normal days. Kushina get irritated a bit by the answer but decided not to get angry. After all, the person in front of her is the Hokage and he is much stronger than her. "I'll get to the point then, where's Naruto?" "He has been gone for a few days, and when I asked the Anbu who used to watch him, all of them said that they didn't know." Sandaime didn't answer right away. He just closed his eyes before standing up from his chair and turned around to face the window. "And why exactly you want to know about him? You had never shown any interest on him even once for 7 years, so why start now?" Kushina flinched a bit at the harsh words Sandaime used to answer her question, although she couldn't find a way to counter those statements as she knew that she did acted that way before. She hung her head down a bit before answering, "That's because I'm his mother. I may never act like one, but he is still my son, so I had the right to know about his whereabouts." "So you're his mother, From what I saw, he seems to be an orphan who never had any parents ever since he had been born," Sandaime said in a cold tone, which made Kushina tighten her fist quite hard. She quickly lifted her head and glared at the back of the old Hokage. "I'm not here to listen to your speech about how I've acted. I want to know where Naruto is, and that is the only thing I want to hear." Kushina yelled a bit. Sandaime turned around and gazed toward Kushina's glare with cold eyes, which make her flinch a bit. "And what will you do if you had know his whereabouts?" "Beat him like every stupid peoples in this village had done. Don't put me on the same spot as those peoples. I'm not gonna do anything to harm my own son." Kushina yelled again as she lost all of her cool. "Physically?" Sandaime muttered in a low voice. "Wah?" Kushina asked, bewildered. "That's true that you had never harmed him physically." Sandaime stopped talking a bit as he examined the expression on Kushina's face, "but I can't say the same about his mentality." Seeing Kushina didn't try to talk back at all, he decided to continue. "I don't think that you knew about this, but Naruto had suffered a lot from your cold way of treating him. I spotted him crying several times in his apartment because of that, but every time I asked him why, he always said that it was nothing." I didn't know that," Kushina stuttered. "Exactly, Kushina, you didn't know and you had never tried to find out about his feeling, and thanks to that Naruto had suffered a lot. Not only that, from what I've heard, you had destroyed or threw away every single presents he had gave you in front of him. Did you think he will be happy when you did that?" Kushina stepped back a bit when she noticed the glare Sandaime gave. It just that he always gave it on the anniversary of Kyuubi. I couldn't stand it and I thought that the Kyuubi was telling him to do it to mock me." Sandaime sighed a bit at the answer before returned to his chair. "I see that you're really blinded by your emotions, Kushina." What do you mean? Have you forget it? The 10th of October is not only the day when Kyuubi attacked Konoha, it is also the day when you gave birth to Naruto." The answer struck Kushina hardly. She had totally forgot about it, as the bad memories she had about that day had totally thrown away every other memories about it. "See, could it be? I see that you understand it now. He had never knew when your birthday was, so he decided to give you a present on his birthday, although it seems that it was a bad choice." Kushina didn't said anything, she just hung her head down, and Sandaime could swear that he saw a tear fell from her eyes. She couldn't help but be disgusted at herself. She had never want to talk to Naruto just because he made her remembered all the bad things that had happened, and without knowing it she had hurt him a lot. a little boy not even 7 who had been entrusted by her husband as her son, but not even once she tried to act like a good mom towards him. She realized that if Minato is here he must be ashamed at how she had acted. Heck, she even forgot about her son's birthday. Where is he now? She barely whispered. Excuse me. Sandaime raised one of his eyebrows. Kushina lifted her head slowly before asking again, where is Naruto now? Please tell me, Hokage-sama. I want to apologize for all my stupidity, and another tear fell to the ground. Sandaime didn't said anything, instead he pulled his hat down so it would cover his eyes. I'm sorry to say this, Kushina, but Naruto is no longer in this village. Kushina's eyes widened at this, but before she could spoke, Sandaime had spoke again. It happened around 3 days ago. He ran away from this village at the same time as when that ninja from Kumo tried to kidnap Hyuga Hanabi. What? Why you didn't told me then? And why you didn't sent Anbu or another ninja to take him back? Kushina yelled again, but with worry on her voice this time. The problem is that by the time we knew about it, it had been too late, as the kidnapping attempt had took everyone's attention. Besides, I think that he had a better survival rate out there in the wild than when he stayed in this village. But he's only a child. Kushina yelled again. Believe in him, Kushina. You may not know it, but he had spent his life in the forest of the death from time to time when he had to run from the mob. He knew exactly how to survive in the wilderness. Forest of the dead, you said. Kushina was shocked at hearing this. That forest was considered dangerous even for some chunin, and here a boy not even older than 7 had lived in it and used it to outrun his pursuers. Sandaime nodded his head before opening a drawer on his desk and took a familiar little box with a ribbon attached to it. He let Kushina gaze at it for a moment before handing it to her. Kushina took it from him and examined it for some time before gazing at the old man in front of her again. This is. That is the last present he had for you. The truth is, he asked me not to tell you that it was from him, but I guess it will be better for you if you know about it. My advice is that you kept it with you, as that will be a proof that you had a son who cared for you. Kushina couldn't said anything at that. She just bowed a bit before disappeared in a puff of smoke and appeared at her house. She quickly got inside and toward her room. After she reached her bed, she slowly opened the box and she could see that inside it was a pendant with a big red jewel which matched her hair hanged on it. It was really beautiful, but when she saw it she couldn't help but saw an image of Naruto inside the red jewel, which made every memories she had about her son flooded her mind. That was the last straw, as she quickly pulled herself to the bed and cried for hours before she fell asleep with the pendant still on her hand. Back to the demon realm. So, what will you teach me, Dad? Naruto asked. Well, first we will train in one special kenjutsu. What? Kenjutsu? But isn't it called forbidden for a reason? Minato smiled a bit at his son. It seems he wasn't as dumb as he thought. That's right, but this one won't be a problem for you, instead it will help on your training. This jutsu is called Kage Bunshin, and the reason why it labeled as kenjutsu was because it need a hell lot of chakra to master, something which you don't need to worry about since your chakra capacity already surpassed even that of a chunin. Well, I understand that, but how it will help with my training? The difference between normal Bunshin and Kage Bunshin is that with Kage Bunshin you will create an actual body which could attack, although it will disperse once it got hit. But the advantage is that you will know and learn everything the Kage Bunshin learned while it was out, so if you create 100 Kage Bunshins while training, you will master the training 100 times faster than normal. Wow, then what are we waiting for? Let's do it now. Minato smiled at his son's enthusiasm, and soon they started the training, which took Naruto around 6 hours to finally manage to create 10 Kage Bunshins with enough chakra to last for at least a day. Naruto yelled to the sky at his success, only to heard claps from the side which made him gaze toward it, and soon he was face to face with Kyuubi. Congratulations, Kit, it seems to me that you had managed to learn a useful ninjutsu. Kyuubi said while walking toward Naruto. Kyuubi, when did you return? Naruto asked, as he didn't realize Kyuubi had returned. Around 1 until 2 hours ago. You must be too focused on your training if you didn't notice. Naruto just nodded a bit before his gaze fell to the bag which Kyuubi carried on her right hand. Hey Kyuubi, what's that on your hand? This, Kyuubi asked while lifting the bag. These are some gravity weights which I want you to wear in your training. These weights can be adjusted simply by a little chakra, so you won't have any problem with removing it when you were in a pinch or something. Wait, but what for? I'm pretty fast enough with my bloodline, so why do I need to do another speed training? Naruto asked, but the only answer he got was a bag flying toward his face which made him fell to the ground. That's why, you can't depend on your bloodline too much. Besides, I don't think it is wise to use it too much, and Konoha seeing how they hate foxes. Hearing the logical answer, Naruto just nodded his head before wearing the weight, but before he asked about how to activate it, Minato started to speak. Ah, Naruto. The truth is there are still something I need to tell you about our bloodline. Huh, what is it, Dad? Before that, Kyuubi, could you hear us too? What? Yes, I could hear you. As long as I'm not asleep. Or we're not separated too far, I can still hear you, we're connected after all. Is there something you want to talk about? Well, it's good then. The truth is, Naruto, there are two things I haven't told you. One good and one bad, so which one you want to hear first? The good one please. Okay, the good news is that you could activate our bloodline partially. This can only affect the eyes, but the result is that you don't have to worry about genjutsu, since our eyes could block any genjutsu if it's activated. That's awesome. In other words, there's no need for Naruto to learn genjutsu, right? Yup, although I don't think that he could learn it even if he want. I tried to learn it in the past and failed. It seems that the bloodline also block our access to genjutsu, not like we need it though. Okay, that's a good news, but what is the bad news? I think it will be better to show you. Transform into a fox please. Naruto did as he was told, and soon a yellow fox with red eyes appeared in the place where he was standing before. Good, now do you see that tree in front of you? Naruto faced forward and he could see a tree around 20 meters away from his standing spot. Yes, so what? Now I want you to run toward it and stop once you are right in front of it. Seems pretty easy to me. Naruto said while Kyuubi just nodded her head in agreement. Soon Naruto dashed toward the tree with an astounding speed and wham! He hit the tree with full force and fell to the ground. That hurt. Naruto yelled while holding his head with his paws, while a shocked Kyuubi quickly ran toward his directions to see if he was alright. Do you understand now? Damn, what's wrong with me, Dad? I couldn't even see that tree before I hit it. That's the problem, Naruto. It's true that our bloodline gave us a super speed, but the problem is that our eyes won't be able to catch up with that kind of speed, so we need some extra training to be able to see our surrounding when we dashed away. But he didn't had any problem like this when he first activated it, did he? Kyuubi asked while crouching beside Naruto trying to heal his swollen head. Well, the only thing I could say is that he was pretty damn lucky when he did that. Besides, he wasn't even thinking about where he was running at that time, and he did tripped on that big root if you forget. So, what do we need to do, Dad? And why you didn't warn me about it just now? Sorry, but like I said, it will be better if you find it out by yourself. For me, before I didn't had any time to train since I first activated it when Konoha was at war, so I used the three-pronged kunai I was famous with. Oh yeah, I remembered that Iruka-sensei said something about that in history class. But what did it do? I placed special seals on those kunais. Those seals emitted chakra around it like a spider web, which I used to sense directions and enemies. The chakra wasn't much, but with my heightened sense when I transformed into a fox, it was no problem to sense it. I see, but I don't have any of those kunai, so what should I do? Naruto asked. Didn't you heard him? He only used it because he didn't have any time to train. In your case it's totally different. You have all the time you need to train your eyes. Kyuubi explained, which made Naruto's mouth formed an oh. So, is that the only thing you want to ask me? To train him to be used to high speed? No, that's not all. The truth is I wanted to ask you if you know any seal-less jutsu. Seal-less jutsu? I know a few, but why? Oh, I get it now. Kyuubi smirked while putting her hand below her mouth. Huh, what are those seal-less jutsu for? Naruto asked, bewildered. It had some advantages, Naruto. First, you don't need to worry that someone will try to steal your technique, especially those Uchiha, except Itachi, that the next give you the advantages when you transformed. Realizing that Naruto is confused, Kyuubi decided to explain. Think about it, kid, how are you gonna make hand seals with these? Kyuubi said while lifting Naruto's paws, which made Naruto understand and nodded his head. Well, since you've understand, let's start the training. First, return back to human form and create some cage bunshin as much as you can without them disappearing in the next 10 hours. Kyuubi said while snickering, which seems to be an announcement for Naruto that his hellish training had begun anew. 5 years later. I see that this place haven't changed at all. A boy around 12 years old said as he gazed toward the hidden village on Konoha from the top of Yondaimi's head. The boy had a long spiky red hair which being tied behind his neck with unbalanced bangs on both sides of his head. He had 2 clear blue eyes which were the only things that could be seen from his face as he was wearing a black mask which covered his mouth and nose. His body was covered by a dark blue t-shirt with a long sleeve and a black pants which reach below his knee with bandages covering the rest of his legs. He also wore an unzipped orange jacket with the sleeves torn and a red spiral mark behind it, Naruto's usual jacket, but had the sleeves torn and only had 1 spiral mark behind, a pair of normal ninja sandals, a kunai holder on his right leg, and a short katana with a wood sheath strapped on the back of his waist. Well, let's meet the Hokage then. The boy said to no one as he disappeared in a puff of smoke and reappeared in front of the window at the Hokage's mansion, or to be more exact, in front of the window of the Hokage's office. Too bad for him as not even a minute after he landed there a group of Anbu had surrounded him, although when they did that the boy didn't even flinched, almost like he had known this would happen. So, what business do you have here, little one? The Anbu with a dog mask asked. The boy just smiled a bit before turning around to face said Anbu. Oh, I just want to meet the Hokage. Is that a bad thing? When you're trying to get inside from a window instead of a door? I'll say, yes. The boy shook his head a bit before jumping away from the window and landed right in front of the door of the mansion. You won't have any complaint now, right? The boy said before walking inside, while the Anbu just chuckled before dismissing the other Anbu and jumped to the ground and walked inside himself. Soon the two reached the door which leads toward the Hokage's office, and after getting permissions they got inside and stand in front of the old Sandaime Hokage. Mind to tell me who and why you are here, young one? Sandaime asked politely. The boy rubbed his chin a bit while looking at the ceiling as if he was thinking before facing the Hokage again. My name, you had to find it out by yourself. As to why I'm here, I've come to steal the little orange book inside the hidden vault in the second drawers on your desk. The boy said in a monotonous tone which made Sandaime's eyes widen until it was as big as a dinner plate. No one knew about his hidden treasure, so how did this young boy knew about it? The only person who knew about it were his student Jiraiya, and that blonde boy who used to blackmail him by saying that he will burn it. What the? Yo, you're Naruto. Sandaime yelled while pointing at the boy in front of him who grinned behind his mask. Bingo, now is it too hard to know who I am, Gigi? You're Naruto. What happened to your appearance? The Anbu behind him said as he removed his mask to show the familiar, another mask, behind it. That's true, Inu-san. Although I'm not Naruto anymore now. Naruto's statement caught the two off guard, which left them stunned. Being the one who recovered first, the Hokage decided to speak. What do you mean that you're no longer Naruto? And why did you change your appearance? Naruto sighed a bit before he started to explain. Well, the truth is. Flashback. Hey Naruto, come inside for a moment. We had something to talk. Hearing his dad voice, Naruto quickly meditated to got inside his mind. After more than 4 years of training, Naruto had been able to got in and out of his mindscape with ease, although he still had to meditate to do that. A minute later he had arrived in front of the gate which hold both Kyuubi and his own father. Kyuubi had returned to the seal a few hours ago saying that she had something to discuss with his father. I'm here now. What's the problem, Dad? Naruto asked. Seeing that Naruto had arrived, both Kyuubi and Minato quickly sat in front of the gate with serious expressions. Actually, Naruto, we have decided that now is the time for us to leave this realm and return the real world. Minato said. And, what's the problem with that? Naruto asked, bewildered. This is the problem, Kyuubi said while lifting a mirror, and when Naruto looked toward it he realized what's the problem was. Right now he was the exact copy of his dad, minus the whiskers. I see that you understand. If you come out now and return to Konoha, there will be an uproar and soon they will find out about your real identity, and we're sure that some peoples will try to kill you again. Naruto hung his head as all Kyuubi said was pretty logical. So, what should we do? Kyuubi and Minato faced each other for some time before Kyuubi speak again. We've found a way for that. I could alter your DNA a bit so that the whisker marks will disappear. Not only that, I will also able to change the color of your eyes or hair so you can become an entirely different person. But there's one problem. What is it? What's the problem? Minato sighed a bit before answering. Altering your DNA mean that you will cut your blood connections with your parents Naruto, or in your case with your mother, as the bloodline inside you is strong enough to hold my connections with you. In other words, if I alter your DNA now and you try to have a DNA check with your mother in the future, the result will be negative. You will cut off your connections with her and her family completely. Naruto was shocked at this. Saving himself from the villagers means cutting his blood connections with his mother. Is there no other way for this? Minato just shook his head slowly at this. The three stayed in silence for a few moments before Naruto decided to speak. Alright, let's do it. You're sure about it, Naruto? Minato asked in a concerned voice. Yes, I may be unable to call her mother anymore, but that won't stop me to reach my goal to become the greatest Hokage and protect everyone like you did, everyone including her. Naruto said in a confident tone. Well, that's a good determination you had there, Naruto. How about I changed your hair to red? That way at least you could look a little bit like your mother. Hearing this, Naruto brightened a bit before smiling warmly at Kyuubi. Thanks Q-chan, you're really kind. Kyuubi was taken aback a little by the suffix and smile as she quickly looked away with a blush on her face. This reactions made Minato giggled a bit before he returned his gaze at Naruto. I'm sure she will still accept you as her son, Naruto. Now all we need is a new name. So, I need a new name as well. Yup, we need a complete makeover here. I've thought a name. How about Miso Naruto? Minato asked with a smile on his face, although it was not long since the next moment he had kissed the ground thanks to a kick on the back of his head from Kyuubi. I can't believe it. How could you give him a lame name like that, you ramen freak? What's wrong with ramen? Why don't you give him the name then? Minato yelled back while rubbing the back of his head. Me? Kyuubi asked bewildered. Seeing Minato nodded his head, Kyuubi sighed a bit before closing her eyes and start to think about a good name. Soon she opened her eyes and gazed toward Naruto's directly. I know a name for you. End of flashback. That's really like Minato to use a ramen's name on his son. Sandaime said while chuckling. Both he and Kakashi had got over the shock from the fact that Naruto knew about the Kyuubi and that Minato was sealed inside him too, so. What's your name now? Naruto took a glance at the window a bit before facing the Hokage. My name is Kazama Arashi. Yet another morning in Konoha and everything seems to be normal. Some peoples could be seen in the streets walking and chatting while others decided to stay inside their houses to do some house chores, or for some people, to sleep on a warm and comfy bed. One red-haired girl not older than 12 fell in the last category. She was having a very nice dream until a voice was heard. Wake up, sleepyhead. A yell rang on her ears, and as if that was not enough to woke her up, a glass of water was sprayed directly onto her face, which resulted in a series of hilarious events. 1. She jumped in surprise. 2. She slipped of the water which had somehow drenched her bed. 3. She fell to the floor beside her bed face first. And 4th, the vibration from her fell made the clock on the desk beside her fell on top of her head, sending her back into dreamland. The person besides her just watched the whole event with a dumbfounded expressions before finally snapped and let out a giggle, which made said girl woke up and tried to pull herself up while rubbing her head. As soon as she had stood on her feet, she glared at the person beside her, or to be more precise, at the woman with the same hair color as her, although the woman's hair was longer. Mo, why you had to woke me up that way, mom? The woman, which was addressed as her mother, quickly stopped giggling before putting both her hands on her hip and glaring at her daughter. Well, if you had woke up when your clock rang instead of turning it off and returned to dream world, I wouldn't have to did that. Mo, the girl just pouted while turning away, although she knew that her mother was right. After all, it was her who set the alarm since she wanted to wake up a bit early for a change, although it had failed. Seeing her daughter's act, the woman decided to speak. Alright, stop daydreaming now. Don't forget that you still have to get ready for the academy. Her mother's words took her attention as she quickly turned toward the clock and realized that she only had 40 minutes left before the academy start. The next thing she knows, she had run toward her wardrobe and took her normal set of cloth, which consists of a white short-sleeved shirt and a red skirt with a white strip near the end of skirt. Her clothings also consist of a red vest which reached just below her chest with a Konoha symbol on the left part, a black tights, and a normal blue ninja sandals. 20 minutes later, the girl arrived at dining room where she quickly took some breakfast, and after bowing to her mother she dashed out of the house and toward the ninja academy. She arrived at her class around 10 minutes later and quickly took the farthest seat near the window before letting herself fell to the chair and put her hand on her chest trying to catch her breath. "Good morning Hikari-san, you're lucky that Iruka-sensei is a bit late today," a voice came from beside her which made her turn to her side to come face to face with a pair of blue eyes which belongs to the only blonde of the class and one of her friend, Yamanaka Ino. "Well, good morning to you too. And how come sensei is late? He never came late for the class before," the girl now known as Hikari said as she put her index finger on her chin making a thinking pose. The blonde shrugged before mimicking her friend's action. "I don't know, but from the rumor I heard there's going to be a new student in our class today." "New student?" Hikari asked confused. "Yep, I heard that he was around our age and that he had been traveling alone in the wild before he came here to our village. They also said that Sandame Hokage was the one who gave him the permission to enter our class." Sandame himself. "Wow," Hikari said in amazement. She was about to said something before the door was opened and a chunin by the name of Yumino Iruka walked inside together with boy who had a long red hair. She couldn't help but focused on the boy as she could see that the boy was quite strange. He seems to be quite mature for a boy his age and somehow he looks familiar, although she wasn't sure since the mask on his face made her unable to see his full face. She could see that some of her classmates also had some interests on the new boy, especially some girls who were drooling at him, but no one was able to said anything as she could heard her teacher started to speak. "Well students, we had a newcomer here in our class. His name is Kazama Arashi and he is around your age, so please befriend with him, okay?" Iruka said while Arashi just stayed there in silent and gazed at his new classmates before his eyes fell on a particular red-haired girl who was looking at him as well. "Dad, is that her? From what I see, she looks a bit like your mother, so I would say yes." "I see, hope she doesn't recognize me though." Arashi thought returned to what Sandame Gigi had told him when he was still in his office yesterday. Flashback. "I see, Kazama Arashi, huh? That's a good name," Sandame said while puffing his pipe a bit before returning his gaze at Arashi. "So, what do you plan to do now, Arashi?" "The truth is I plan to return to my old apartment. Is it still empty?" "Yes, I had ordered that room to be empty for time like this but..." "But, what?" Arashi asked confused. "Did you ever consider to return to your real house, Arashi? I can guarantee that your mother will be happy about that." "My mother? But she was," Arashi said, but he was cut by Kakashi. "Believe it or not, your mother was quite shocked when you left. She confined herself inside the house and didn't want to meet anyone for some weeks before Sandame-sama managed to pull her out." Arashi didn't said anything at these, but the other two could see a smile had formed beneath his black mask. "By the way Arashi," Sandame's voice took Arashi back to reality, "there's another thing I need to tell you about your mother." "Is it bad?" "Well, it could be bad or good, depends on how you see it." Seeing the confused looks on Arashi's face, Sandame decided to continue. "The truth is around 3 years ago one of your mother's cousin and best friend died of illness and her daughter became an orphan since her father had died a few years before in a mission. When your mother saw these, she decided to take the girl to Konoha and adopted her as her own daughter." Kakashi said, finishing Sandame's words. "I see. What I want to said is that you shouldn't be angry at your mother for this. The reason why she did these was because she realized that the girl will definitely had a hard life, seeing that she was still 9 at that time and she," Sandame said, but he was cut by Arashi. "She didn't want her to experience the same pain that I did, right?" Both Sandame and Kakashi nodded their head while Arashi just let out a light smile. "Don't worry about that Jii-chan. I am not angry at my mother, especially after knowing that she care about me, although I think I will keep my identity hidden for a while." "But why?" Kakashi asked confused. "That way I won't have any problem when I become a ninja in this village. Maybe one day I will tell everyone about it, but only after I gain their respects and vice versa." "Well, if that's your decision," Sandame sighed before leaning back on his chair. "By the way, what is the name of my sister?" Arashi asked. "Her name. It is." End of flashback. Uzumaki Hikari. "Would you stop gazing at your new friend and actually listen to me?" Iruka yelled a bit at the red-haired girl, which made said girl stop gazing at the new boy before she realized what she had been doing for some time and quickly put her head down to the table and between her arms to hide her blush, and at the same time made the whole class, with the exception of Arashi, Iruka, Shino, Shikamaru, because it's too troublesome to laugh, and Sasuke, laughed. I'm sorry sensei, what was it again? Hikari said after the laugh died down, which earned her a sigh from Iruka. I said, is there anyone who want to ask a question about Arashi here? At first everyone was silent before a hand rose. Yes, Sakura. Arashi turned his head to face the only pink-haired girl in the class. Sensei, why he join our class which will graduate this year? If he's really new, then shouldn't they put him in a lower class? Because Sandame had a recommendation for Arashi here. Besides, from what I heard, he managed to survive in the wild for a few years alone, and that was quite exceptional considering his age. Iruka explained, stressing at the word, alone. But survival is different from ninja's training. I bet he didn't even know the basic ninjutsu we learnt here. Sakura yelled again. That may be true, but like I said before, he had a recommendation from Sandame himself, so if you want to complain about his ability, then said it to the Sandame. Iruka said, a bit irritated before he saw another hand rose. Okay Kiba, go ahead. Hey redhead, why you smelled like foxes? The boy with a dog on top of his head said, making the whole class confused, while Arashi just smiled at the question before answering. Ah, this may be the reason. Arashi lifted his orange jacket a bit before a little red fox slipped through it and circled itself around his neck before licking his face. Meet my fox, Himiko-chan. Almost everyone inside the class was surprised by this, and some of them actually wanted to say something, but their voice was cut by a loud, kawaii, from almost every girl inside the classroom. Both Arashi and Himiko were prepared for this, as they had a similar experience in a village nearby when Arashi decided to buy some cloth for himself and closed their ears as soon as the yell came, although the unprepared ones, mostly boys, had suffered a temporary death. Arashi snickered at seeing how the boys was acting, as he could see himself doing that before, and somehow it also made him remember the time when he found out about Himiko's name. Flashback. Well, I guess it's time to go to Konoha. Arashi said to himself before putting on the cloth which he had bought a few days ago and went to the door of his room. He had stayed in this village for a few days, as it took quite some time to find everything he need, although he also had another reason for staying. That reason was that he wanted to test whether he was still recognizable after his change or not, especially since the village was not that far from Konoha, and sometimes he also came face to face with Konoha's ninjas. The result was quite good, as so far no one recognized him, not even some ninjas which he remembered had gave him a beating at least once when he was still in Konoha. The problem was that his change had a side effect. Nearly all of the girls his age in this village had looked at him with either drool coming out from their mouth or a heart on their eyes. Hell, he even spotted those reactions from some women older than him. What made him even more confused was that whenever he asked Kyuubi or his father about for help, the only reaction he got was a giggle from his father or an angry growl from Kyuubi. He could understand about his father's reaction, but what made him confused was Kyuubi's. After spending 5 years with her, he had managed to befriend with her and even called her Q-chan sometimes, although it seems that Kyuubi always blushed and looked away when he said that. The problem was that ever since he had left Kyuubi's realm and returned back, he had spoke less and less with Kyuubi. Not only that, Kyuubi had rejected to came out of his body through summoning, and this is what worried him the most, as he could remember that Kyuubi once said that she wanted to stay out of the seals as long as she could back then in her realm. Okay Dad, what did I do to make Kyuubi angry at me? Arashi asked as he gave up in finding the answer. Minato stayed silent for a few minutes, but before Arashi could ask again, he could hear his father start to speak. I think it will be best if you hear the answer from her yourself. I had a clue about it, but I don't think it's my place to tell you. Arashi could tell from the tone his father used that he must had screw up big time, so he decided to listen to his advice and quickly try to contact Kyuubi, but to no avail, since it seems that either she didn't listen or didn't want to answer. He was hoping that it was the former, although he could tell that it was the latter. Well, if she didn't want to come to me, then I'll come to her, Arashi said to particularly no one before sitting under a big tree and meditated. Soon he was standing in front of the cage which held both his father and Kyuubi, although the only one he could see was his father, so he quickly looked around to find his other tenant. Knowing what his son was doing, Minato slowly pointed to the house behind him, and the next thing he knew, Arashi had disappeared from his sight, and when he turned around he could see that his son had opened the door of the house. That was fast, Minato muttered before he decided that it will be better to let the two alone and quickly lie down on the grass to take a nap. Inside the house. Hey Kyuubi. Where are you? Arashi yelled a bit although he got no response. Kyuubi. It's me Arashi. He yelled again a bit louder but still got no response. Seeing that it was useless, Arashi decided to walk around the house until he was in front of Kyuubi's room. Kyuubi had told him where it was when he visited before. Arashi knocked the door a few times and got no response, but he could swear that he had heard her voice from behind the door. Seeing that nothing will be solved this way, Arashi slowly tried to open the door and surprisingly it wasn't locked, so he decided to walk silently inside. What he saw next was not something he had expected before. He could see that Kyuubi was there sitting on a chair and it seems that she was gazing at a picture on her hand. Arashi tried to speak but his words was cut when he saw tears on Kyuubi's eyes. Arashi-kun. Kyuubi yelled a bit when she found out that Arashi was inside her room but quickly put her hand on her mouth when she realized what she had just said, although it seems that Arashi had heard it quite clearly. Unfortunately for Kyuubi, her reaction made the picture on her hand fell toward Arashi's feet, which made him took it and he could see two people in it. One woman who he identified as Kyuubi thanks to the ear and tails, and another person which is a man around 20 years old who had a bright red hair like Kyuubi and had his hand around Kyuubi's waist. When he looked even closely at the man, he could see that the man was smiling warmly and somehow that smile was similar to his own, and that's when he realized that this man was definitely a human. Kyuubi, this is? Arashi asked while facing toward Kyuubi, who seems to be trying to hold back tears. Give it back, Kyuubi said with a low voice. Huh? Arashi asked dumbfounded. I said give it back. Kyuubi yelled while moving as fast as she could and took the picture back from Arashi, which surprised Arashi and made him lost his balance and fell to the ground. Hey, what was that for? Arashi yelled back. Shut up. Why don't you just stop being curious and leave me alone? Okay, now Arashi was pissed. He came here to apologize for a mistake he didn't even know what, and now she wanted him to leave her alone after making him fall to the ground. Just what's wrong with you? I came here because I wanted to ask you about why you won't even talk to me, and here I got you yelling at me for no reason. Too bad for him. Kyuubi was quite angry herself and quickly yelled back, why do you care about that? Especially when you had every girls on the village ogling at you. What's the connection between those girls and you being angry at me? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because you look so much like my late husband and the fact that I cared about you so much but you didn't even get a hint about my feelings. Well, what did you just said? Arashi was speechless at this, especially about the fact that Kyuubi had a feeling for him. Truth to be told, he do care about Kyuubi. All this years with her had shown him the other parts of the demon fox, which had intrigued him so much and had made him fell in love with the red-haired beauty. Despite that, he was scared that Kyuubi will reject him if he confess. After all, she was a queen of demon fox and probably the strongest being in the world, while he was nothing but a human sacrifice who was chosen to hold said demon. Hearing Arashi's answer and seeing his surprised look, Kyuubi couldn't help but assume the worst and decided to let out every thought inside her, since at least it will enlighten the pressure inside her even a bit. Yes. Are you surprised? You may had a different face but you're so similar to him in every possible way. The way you smile, the way you act toward other people, heck even your kindness and forgiving attitude are totally the same as him. Kyuubi, Arashi wanted to speak but Kyuubi won't let him. And why do you think I gave that name to you? That was his name, for God's sake. That's right. Even your name have a similar meaning. Kyuubi had lost it. She didn't even aware of the tears flowing out from her eyes, while Arashi couldn't said anything and just stand there like a statue. Seeing this, Kyuubi decided that she had had enough and ran toward the door, but she quickly stopped when she felt that Arashi's hand had caught one of hers. What are you? Let me go. Kyuubi's words fell to deaf ear as Arashi just pulled her toward him, making her fell to his chest before putting his arms around her. Surprised by his action, Kyuubi just stand there dumbfounded. She didn't even try to resist his grip, since she could feel that her strength somehow disappeared by the time he hugged her tightly. Not only that, she couldn't help but felt really comfortable by resting her head on Arashi's chest. They stayed like that for a moment before Arashi decided to break the silence. You were right. Q-chan, I'm sorry that I didn't notice your feelings toward me. What are you? But you're wrong about one thing. Arashi loosened his hug a bit before tilting his head down a bit so that he was face to face with Kyuubi. I do care for you, Ever since the first time I met you and all these times with you in the demon realm, I didn't understand it at first but I do know. A moment later Kyuubi could feel that tears had stopped flowing from her eyes as Arashi pulled down his mask and slowly kissed her cheek before pulling back to wipe the tears from her eyes. Arashi-kun. I love you, Kyuubi. Arashi said before slowly putting his mouth over hers, which made her eyes open wider before she slowly closed them and kissed back. A streak of tear fell from her eyes, but this time it was a tear of joy. A few moments later they broke the kiss and embraced each other. They stayed like there for a minute before Kyuubi spoke. Himiko. Huh? Arashi asked, a bit confused before Kyuubi spoke again. That's my real name. Kyuubi blushed a bit before facing Arashi once again. I think you deserve to know it. Arashi smiled warmly toward Kyuubi before pulling her into another embrace. I love you, Himiko-chan. I love you too, Arashi-kun. Flashback end. Arashi smiled as he remembered what happened after that. His father wasn't even surprised when he heard that he and Himiko were a couple and said that he had expected something like this for some time. Not only that, Minato even broke the seal he placed on the cage. This way Himiko could get a constant supply of her chakra when she was summoned, which mean that she could stay outside forever except if she or Arashi wanted her to return back. Arashi-kun. Help me, a voice inside his head made him return to reality. Slowly he looked around and sweat dropped when he realized what had happened. Currently Himiko was being hugged to death by a group of females, and it seems that she was out of breath if the pale blue color coming out from her face was any indication. I'm sorry, but can I have her back? Arashi said, which made the girls hugging Himiko faced him with puppy eyes which desperately asked him to let them hug her a bit longer. Arashi almost gave into it, but a yip from Himiko made him realize that she didn't want to suffer any longer, so being a good boyfriend he shook his head and took Himiko back before putting her on top of his shoulder. The girls slowly returned back to their seats while pouting before Aruka asked if there's anyone else who want to ask something, but seeing that no one raised their hands he decided to end the introduction. The day passed quite fast and Arashi found himself surrounded by his classmates, mostly females, who throwing questions after questions like, where do you live? Or, do you have a girlfriend? Until something like, want to become my husband? Arashi shook his head a bit at this and was about to answer when a voice came from a random student in the class. Hey, why you had that fox anyway? They are monsters, you know. To say that the whole class was surprised was an understatement. A second after those words came, said student had found himself thrown to the wall with a kunai following him and hit the wall next to his right ear. The class attention quickly shifted from said student to the red-haired boy who was standing on top of the desk where the unfortunate student was leaning just a few moments ago. Said those words once more and I'll make sure that you won't be able to speak for eternity. Arashi said while letting out a killing intent at the stupid student, making him piss his pants before he turned around and jumped off the desk and toward the door with Himiko following him. Inside the class murmurs could be heard about how strong Arashi was, but a certain Avenger couldn't help but angry and jealous at that power before walking toward the door himself. On the rooftop. You know, I don't think that was necessary, Arashi-kun. Himiko said before hoping toward Arashi's head while said boy stayed silent before he sat down on the floor and faced the sky. Maybe you're right, but I couldn't help it. My body just moved by itself when I heard that he was insulting you. Arashi lifted Himiko's body from his head and put her at his lap before petting her head slowly, gaining a purr from her. Arashi's attention quickly shifted when he heard that the door behind him opened and he could see that there's someone there. Huh? Isn't that Weasel-san's brother Sasuke? What is he doing here? Arashi thought before standing up while Himiko just climbed up to his shoulder. Before he managed to ask anything though, said Uchiha had opened his mouth to speak. Fight me. Huh? What for? Arashi said in a confused tone before he realized that there are some other people watching them, although it seems that the Uchiha in front of him didn't realize it. Shut up and fight. Sasuke yelled while dashing toward Arashi and throw a punch at his head. Arashi's quick reaction made him able to dodge it easily, but it seems that this just made the boy in front of him even more agitated as he threw a bunch of kunai toward Arashi, although all of them were dodged. Damn, what's with this person? I didn't even know him, for God's sake. Arashi thought while kept on dodging one attack after another. Should I give him a good smack or two? That will made him passed out for sure. Wait, Arashi. Arashi was about to land a hit on Sasuke's back, but when he heard his father's voice he quickly pulled back and jumped backward a few times. "What is it, Dad? I was about to send this boy to La La Land, you know." The truth is I think that it will be better if you lost this fight." "What?" Arashi was shocked by that statement that he barely avoided a roundhouse kick from Sasuke, but said Uchiha just thought that he had managed to do it thanks to his ability and power. Like they said, ignorance is a bliss, but why, Dad? It's like this, from what I saw that boy want to fight you after you show a bit of your power. Yes, and? Arashi asked again while jumping away from a punch. He had decided to keep on dodging for a while until the explanation is over. Think about it, Arashi-kun, I'm sure that he want to show everyone that he is stronger than you by defeating you in a fight. Himiko said. She had jumped away when Arashi dodged the first attack and currently she was watching the fight from the side. I see, if I defeat him now he will complain about it and challenge me again in the future until he defeat me, right? Both Minato and Himiko nodded at this, so I guess losing now will lost me some trouble in the future, huh? Not only that, Arashi, I want you to stay at the bottom of your class. That way there will be a big possibility that you will get a good team, since usually the worst in class will be paired with the best one. I see. Arashi thought before he dodged yet another kick, although this time he let the kick to scratch his body a little. The problem is that I had shown some ability in taijutsu just now, so will they believe it? Arashi thought while throwing a bunch of shurikens to keep the distance between the two fighters. Then you should fail in the other categories and used taijutsu is the only part where you pass. That won't be so hard, right? Alright, well let's finish this one then. Arashi thought before he saw that Sasuke had gone a bit frustrated at how he had managed to dodge nearly every attack he had thrown. Well, let's take the next attack, shall we? What surprised him was that Sasuke did something he didn't expect for an academy student. He made some hand seals before inhaled a deep breath and yelled, "Kaiten, Goukyaku no Jutsu." Sasuke let loose a big fireball toward Arashi, which Arashi dodged quickly by sidestepping, but too bad for him that Sasuke had run toward him and quickly throw a punch at his stomach. This one hit right on target and Arashi ended up getting thrown and hit the rail before he jumped to avoid a kunai directed at him. Having predicted this, Sasuke jumped even higher than Arashi before kicking him from above the shoulder, making him fell to the floor and passed out. After seeing that Arashi was not going to wake up, Sasuke smirked at his win before turning around and walked away while mumbling, "Pathetic," before he finally disappeared from sight. Seeing that Sasuke had gone away, some peoples appeared around Arashi's body. All of them were identified by Himiko as Arashi's classmates. "Is he okay?" a feminine voice said before Arashi felt that a hand had touched his hand to check on his pulse. "Don't worry, Hikari-san, and for you. I think it will be better if you stop pretending." Arashi opened his eyes quickly, which made the girl who held his hand jump back in surprise. "How did you know that I was only pretending?" Arashi asked before standing up and brushing some dust from his body. He looked around and his gaze fell to the one who had broke his act before, the one he remembered as Aburame Shino. This is how. Shino lifted his right index finger until it was near Arashi's chest before a bug jumped toward it from Arashi's cloth. "I had planted a bug on you when you left the class and coincidentally it was walking at the spot where Sasuke's punch hit you. But as you can see, it is still alive. And that means Sasuke's fist never really hit you, instead you only threw yourself back by the time his fist made contact with your body, right?" Another boy with a pineapple hairstyle said, finishing Shino's word. "Wow, he's sharp, as expected from Inara." Minato said while putting his hand on his chin. "But why did you pretend to lose?" A fat boy, which Minato identified as an Akamichi, asked while pulling out a bag of chips from nowhere. Arashi didn't answer just then. Instead he crouched down a bit and lifted Himiko up before turning around toward the village. "Let's just say that I didn't want to show my real abilities for some time," Arashi said before he disappeared in a puff of smoke, leaving 4 dumbfounded academy students wondering about how strong their new classmate is. This is gonna be troublesome. "Hey Arashi, want to go and eat some ramen?" Our hero turned around with his fox on his shoulder as he heard one of his friend's voices calling him. "Okay, I have some free time after all," Arashi said, while moving toward the one who called him, before they walked together toward Ichiraku Ramen. It has been 3 months since he first entered the academy. Like normal people, he had gained some friends and somehow 4 of them were the one who knew that he was holding back the whole time. Thankfully for him, none of them pestered him about why he kept doing that, as they knew that he can become the Rookie of the Year if he wanted to. The problem was that one Uzumaki Hikari seems to have grown a bit curious about his face, if her constant habit of trying to see what beneath his mask was any indication. "Hey Choji, did you invite the others too?" Arashi turned to his friend and seeing him nod his head. "Yup, they should be there by now. I invited them first since they can't eat as fast as us." Arashi smiled at this. He could remember the day they first ate ramen together. All of their friends were really surprised at the speed both he and Choji ate their ramen and nearly bulged their eyes out when he and Choji asked for another bowl and still finish it faster than them. "Well, here we are." Choji's word made Arashi return back to reality, and soon both of them entered the ramen stand. He could see their friends, who consist of Uzumaki Hikari, Nara Shikamaru, Kiba Inuzuka, and Hyuga Hinata, were already there and they were eating their ramen when the two of them entered the stand. "There you are. Do you know how long we've been waiting for you?" A feminine voice caught Arashi's attention, so he turned his eyes toward the person and spotted one of his friend Uzumaki Hikari. "Come and sit here, Arashi. The seat next to me is empty," Hikari said while patting the chair next to her. Arashi had a hunch about why that seat was empty but decided to play along and sat there. Himiko jumped to the counter in front of him after he sat down while Choji took a seat next to Shikamaru. "All right. Today I will definitely see his face," was the thought of one Uzumaki Hikari. She was a bit irritated that she had never seen his face even after she befriended with him for about 3 months. To make it worse, she heard that both Choji and Shikamaru had seen his face once or twice, and if her hunch was right, even Shino had seen it. "Welcome Arashi-kun, what do you want today?" a girl with long brown hair asked right after the red-haired boy sat on his seat. I think I'll take beef ramen for today, Ayame-chan," Arashi said, while smiling before he spotted that said girl had already captured Himiko in her hands, which made him sweat drop and decided to look around, not hearing Himiko's plead about being captured in another bear hug. Where are Ino and Shino? Did you forget to invite them, Choji?" Arashi asked before facing Choji, and sweat dropped when he saw that his big-boned friend had just finished his second ramen bowl. It seems that he had asked Shikamaru to order some for him before he picked him up. Choji put his second bowl on the table and pulled another one before answering, "I did ask them to come, but Shino said that he had something to do today, while Ino said that she had to help her parents since tomorrow is the festival and they have a lot of customers." "Oh, too bad then," Arashi said in a normal tone, but inside he was a bit down. He just remembered that tomorrow is the festival which he always avoided as much as he could, the Kyuubi's festival. Arashi sighed a bit before Hikari decided to speak. "Hey Arashi-kun, what do you say if we all go to the festival tomorrow? I bet it's gonna be fun." "Hey, that sounds fun. Count me in." Another voice, which belonged to Inuzuka Kiba, spoke, together with a bark from his dog companion. "Sorry, but I had something to do tomorrow," Arashi said in a low voice. He knew that he won't have any problem walking in the festival, but somehow he had grown a hate for that festival thanks to his old experience. HMPH. You're no fun," Hikari said while pouting and crossing her arms, which made Arashi chuckled a bit. He was about to say something, but at that same time Ayame arrived while bringing a bowl of ramen and put it in front of him. "Well, let's eat now and talk later, okay?" Arashi took a chopstick before moving his left hand slowly toward his mask. Hikari gulped a bit as the hand moved even closer and finally touched the mask when. "Oni-chan, it's unfair of you to left me behind like that." A girl voice came from in front of the ramen stand, which made everyone including Arashi stop doing whatever they were doing and turned around to face her. In Hikari's case, glared at the girl for picking that time to yell. All of them soon able to see that who yelled was a girl around 3 years younger than them and had a long black hair with a pair of white pupil-less eyes. Hanabi-chan. Why are you here?" Hinata asked. Hanabi didn't answer quickly. Instead she walked inside and sat next to Hinata before pouting her mouth. "I want to spend some time with Oni-chan too, that's why." But didn't you say that had a training with Otu-sama today?" Hinata asked again. "Yup. But since tomorrow's the festival, Otu-sama had some works to do, so he let me take a rest for now." "Is that so?" Hinata said while smiling toward her little sister before asking her if she wanted to eat some ramen together. Arashi smiled at the sight of the two. He was happy that Hinata and Hanabi could finally interact like real siblings, although it was quite a problem for him to make it became like that. Yup, it was mostly Arashi who melted the ice between the two, and the funny part is that he didn't do it because he wanted to. Flashback. Arashi was sitting on the training ground in the academy where currently he and the other students were having a taijutsu spar. The boys' fight had finished with Sasuke emerged as the victor and Arashi as the runner-up. Of course he was holding back, but no one except the 4 friends he have knew about it. Currently the girls' fight had come to the final round where one Hinata Hyuga was fighting against Uzumaki Hikari. Both of them put up a good fight in some people's eyes, and soon the fight ended with Hikari as the winner. Soon Iruka decided to let the students to go home, which made almost all the students ran toward the exit, almost being the keyword here. Arashi had a strange suspicion that Hinata was holding back when she was fighting against Hikari just now, but it seems that she had a different reason for it, so he decided to do some investigation, and what better way to find out something than ask the person herself. So now we got one Kazama Arashi walking toward Hinata, who was trying to stand up after being hit quite hard by Hikari in the spar. She managed to stood up, but somehow she lost her balance and fell backward. She closed her eyes and waiting for the impact, but soon she realized that someone had caught her, if the hand behind her back was any indication. "Oi, are you alright?" the person said. His voice was low, but she could tell that the person was a boy and quickly blushed at the thought of a boy holding her. "Why yes, I'm fine." Hinata stuttered. She slowly opened her eyes and soon she could see a pair of blue eyes gazing at her. She gazed at the boy's eyes for some time before she realized who it was. A-AA Arashi-kun. He's HHHH holding me. Was the thought in her head before her face became as red as a tomato, and she do what normal girls do when the person they admired from afar came to them and hold them, fainted like a log. "Oh oi, what are you fainting for? Oi, Hinata." Arashi yelled a bit while shaking her body a bit to no avail. He would ask some help from his father or Himiko for this, but the problem was that both of them were currently laughing their ass off inside his mindscape, so they were out of the question. "Just how dense can you be?" A voice came from behind him which made him turned around and came face to face with Hikari. "Come on, put her below that tree so she could rest." And he did just that. Soon after, both he and Hikari were talking about the reason why Arashi was trying to talk to Hinata before Hinata started to regain her consciousness. Where am I?" Hinata slowly pulled herself up and looked around, but before the two could said anything her gaze fell to Arashi's face, which was only around 30 centimeters apart. Soon the red color of her face returned and she fell backward to return to La La Land. This act of waking up and fainting was replayed for more than 5 times before. Hikari finally had enough and told Arashi to sit in the tree branch before splashing a glass of water at Hinata to wake her up. They ended up talking that way, with Arashi sat in the tree branch while the 2 girls sat under the tree. Soon Arashi got the answer to his question. It seems that Hinata had a low self-esteem due to her father's change of behavior toward her after her mother's death. The other reason of her holding back was because she didn't want to accidentally hurt another people, which consist of her friends and little sister, in a spar, and the result was she ended up losing in the spar and getting scolded by her father, which gave another blow to her already low self-esteem. Arashi thought about it for a moment before he finally decided to speak. "You know, Hinata-chan, sometimes holding back in a spar could insulted your opponent, especially when said person was thinking that you're her rival." Knowing that Hinata was confused, Arashi decided to continue. "If someone who thought you as her rival, in your case, your sister managed to defeat you in a spar, she will definitely feel happy for that, as she know that she was stronger than you. The problem is, if she find out that you were holding back, her pride will be crushed. She will feel that all of her ability was a fake and all of her image about her being a strong shinobi will crumble, as she realized that she defeated you when you weren't even trying and could defeat her if you wanted to. But I don't want to hurt her," Hinata said in a low voice. Arashi sighed before jumping off the tree and turned his back at the girls. Sometimes getting hurt could be a good thing, since by getting hurt peoples can find out their weakness and they can try to find a way to cover it. Arashi said before turning around and gazed at Hinata. "Tell me, Hinata-chan. Which one do you prefer? You defeat your sister in a spar and help her to improve, or an enemy defeat her in a mission and kill her?" Flashback end. After the talk with him, Hinata started to change her behavior. She still stuttered sometimes, but she no longer hid her ability or holding back in a spar. That was proved by her defeating her sister in a spar which surprised nearly everyone of the Hyuga clan including her father. The problem was just as Arashi had predicted, Hanabi got her pride crushed that same day. Before anyone could say anything she ran away from the compound with tears on her eyes and as if it was decided by fate she stumbled into good ol Arashi. Flashback, another one. Ouch, watch where you were walking kid. Arashi said while pulling himself up from the ground. He was busy talking with his father and Himiko about whether his decision to help Hinata was good or bad when all of a sudden a little girl with long black hair and a pair of white eyes crashed him making both of them fell to the ground. Wait a sec, white eyes. Arashi took a better look at the girl in front of him and soon he realized that he did stumble into a Hyuga. Not only that, he remembered her as the one he helped 5 years ago when he left the village. Hey, are you okay? Arashi asked while moving one of his hand toward the girl trying to help her when he realized that she was wounded and had some part of her cloth tore but she shook it away before standing up by herself and started to walk past Arashi. She was stopped however when Arashi grabbed her left arm and turned her around. What do you want? The girl yelled a bit at Arashi. Arashi shook his head a bit knowing that the girl won't listen to her even if he said anything before pulling her toward his apartment which luckily was located not far from there with her yelling all the way and put her on the sofa. You stay there for now, your wound will need some treatment unless you want them to be infected. Arashi quickly went toward the bathroom to take some medicine while the Hyuga girl just sat there dumbfounded. Never before in her life someone except her father or the Hyuga council gave her order like that. Heck even some adults in the main house weren't there to talk to her but here she found a stranger only a few years older had literally pulled her from the street to his house which she had never went before and gave her an order to stay. Just who is this person? And why did he help me? I didn't even know him. Her thought was cut when she realized that something wet was touching the wound on her left hand. She quickly turned toward whatever it was and found a red fox the size of a puppy was licking her wound. Surprised by it she quickly pulled her hand away from the fox before she heard a chuckle came from the direction where the boy went before. I see that you've met my fox. Arashi said while walking toward her with a medicine box on his right hand. Oi, Himiko-chan, why were you licking her wound? Don't tell me that you wanted to drink her blood. What do you think I am, Arashi-kun? A Dracula or something? I just wanted to taste it a little bit. Himiko said while licking her lips. Isn't that just the same? Minato asked while both he and Arashi sweat dropped. That fox is yours? The girl asked while pointing at the fox which had jumped from the sofa and went toward Arashi. Yup, her name is Himiko-chan. She is cute isn't she? Ah by the way my name is Kazama Arashi, what's yours? The girl was a bit surprised at this since there's no one in Konoha that didn't know who she was. Are you new in this village? She asked in pure curiosity. Arashi was confused at the question but decided to answer anyway. Yeah, I came to this village around 2 months ago. Why? So that's why you didn't know who I am. My name is Hanabi Hyuga, the second daughter of the Hyuga clan's head. The girl said with pride although deep down she was a bit sad. She was sure that this boy will started to act like the other peoples who act like she was a queen or something. At first she was quite happy with all the attention but lately it was becoming a nuisance as she had almost no real friend. So Hanabi-chan is it? I guess you're Hinata-chan's sister. To said that Hanabi was shocked was an understatement. Not only did this boy knew her sister but he didn't seem to care that he was practically kidnapping a Hyuga heiress. On top of that he seems to act toward her like she was a normal girl without a care at her title. Alright, it's done now. Arashi's word took her back to reality which gave another surprise as he had finished treating the entire wound she had without her realizing about it. What's the matter Hanabi-chan? Arashi asked when he found that Hanabi was practically stoned. Hanabi was a bit shocked by the sudden question before she decided to speak. No, it was nothing. It's just, thanking you for your help. Being a Hyuga clan heiress she had almost no experience in dealing something like this. If she wants something she would only need to ask and she will get it but knowing that the boy in front of her was not her everyday people she realized that she had to at least give a thanks. Don't worry about it. But why were you running around while wounded like that? Actually he had a nice guess about why but he just wanted to make sure. She hesitated at first but soon she started to explain about how her sister changed her attitude and defeated her in a spar. And also about how her broken pride made her ran away from everyone and especially from her father and sister before she finally crashed into Arashi. In other words, it was your fault that this all happened. Wasn't it, Arashi? Minato asked while Himiko just nodded her head in agreement. Oi, don't blame everything on me please. How did I know that my advices will result this way? Well, since it had become like this, you should help her gain her confidence back now. That way everything will be fine, I hope. Himiko said the last part with a low voice although both Arashi and Minato had heard it. Let's just hope this works. Arashi sighed before turning toward Hanabi. Hanabi-chan, what do you think about your sister's change? Is it good or bad? Hanabi was confused at the question. She thought about it for a minute before hugging her leg and speak. The truth is I'm a bit happy with her change. I knew how bad Otou-sama and the elders were treating her just because she always lost to me in a spar, so I guess she will gain a bit respect from them now. At the same time I also feel sad to find out that I was fooled all this time and that I was so weak. Tears fell from her eyes as she said those words, but before Arashi could said anything Himiko had jumped to her lap and licked some of the tears away, which made said girl smiled a bit before capturing the fox in a bone-crushing hug, or as much as her little hands could. Seeing this, Arashi just chuckled before he sat down on the sofa next to her and patted her head. You know, Hanabi-chan, sometime losing can be a really good experience. Hanabi lifted her head a bit so that she was face to face with Arashi but didn't said anything since Arashi continued to speak. Just look at you, you might have the title of a genius but it won't mean anything if you overestimate yourself and look down on your opponent. After all, sometimes people chose to hide their real ability for various reasons. In your sister's case it was because of her kind heart, but that didn't mean that she was weak and you could underestimate her, right? Hanabi nodded her head weakly as she had learnt about it the hard way. She had overestimate her ability and underestimate her sister's just because she always won in their previous spar and this led her to her defeat. Now that you've learnt your lesson, you should go forward in your life. After all, losing in a spar doesn't mean that it's the end of the world. You still have a lot of time to improve yourself and become even stronger than you're now. And as long as you don't repeat the same mistakes you will become one super strong shinobi, I'm sure of it. Arashi smiled warmly as he said these, and it seems to be contagious as Hanabi too started to smile a little. It was at this exact time the door of his apartment flew open and a figure came inside. Arashi-kun, we need your help. Hinata-chan's sister disappeared and Hikari's statement was cut short as she froze with her mouth opened when she came face to face with the sight inside Arashi's apartment. Being confused at her reaction, Arashi opened his mouth to speak, but before he could said anything, two other figures which Arashi identified as Hinata and Kiba appeared, and when they came inside they too stopped dead in their track with a surprised look on their faces. Guys. What's wrong with you? Arashi asked confused. You could be so stupid sometimes, Arashi-kun. Himiko said while giggling, which made Arashi faced her with a look that said, what did you mean? Try to see the current situation from your friend's perspective, Arashi. The answer came from Minato, which made Arashi even more confused. Sighing a bit, Minato decided to explain. Okay, here's the problem. 1. Hinata's sister who disappeared from her house are currently sitting in the sofa next to you. 2. Some parts of her body were strapped by bandages with her clothes tore here and there. 3. You still had your hand on top of her head. 4. Both you and her were currently inside your apartment alone. Realization quickly dawned inside Arashi's head. He could feel sweats pouring behind his head before he quickly stood up and put both his hands in front of him. Wait a sec. I could explain. Too bad the damage had been done to his friends and soon they left their shocked state and started to speak. Arashi-kun, you're a lolicon. It was Hikari. Even if you're a lolicon, going after your friend's sister is still wrong, Arashi. This time it was Kiba. Arashi-kun. Lolicon, should I said who this was? Ho, I didn't know that you're a lolicon, Arashi-kun. Himiko said while smirking slyly. My son had been defiled by the world of lolicon. I've failed as a father. Minato said while pretended to be crying. What's a lolicon? The innocent question from the little girl. A casino somewhere. I'm not a lolicon. Huh. Tsunade-sama, what was that? A woman with a short black hair asked. Don't know and don't care, hey you. I placed everything in even number. Flashback end. Of course Arashi tried to explain everything afterwards, although one furious Hyuga Hiyashi barging in his apartment with his Byakugan flared on the next second was not helping at all. Thankfully at that time Sandame, who had seen everything from his all-seeing magic ball, came and start to explain everything, and soon all problems and misunderstanding was solved. After that Hiyashi's attitude toward his daughters changed in a better way, he even started teaching them in rotation and thanked Arashi for his help. Hanabi also started to address him as Oni-chan. It didn't really bother him since he was older than her, but one thing for sure, he was very relieved that she did that after everything had calmed down. Imagine what Hiyashi will do to him if he caught her calling him that with the misunderstanding still ensues. Being accused as a lolicon was bad enough, but being accused as a lolicon who forced a little girl into calling him something like Oni-chan, while her already furious dad was in the same room. Now that was something even the greatest Hokage would not want to experience. Arashi-kun. A yell came from his side made Arashi's thought returned back to reality. He slowly turned to his side to see that Hikari was the one who yelled at him just now. "Oh sorry Hikari-chan, what did you say?" Said girl just sighed before turned back at her friend. "I said that you better eat your ramen before it get cold. And the faster you start eating the faster I'll be able to see your face." Oh you're right, thanks," Arashi said before turning toward his ramen to spotted that Himiko had managed to run away from Ayame and was sitting in front of his bowl. Chuckling a bit, Arashi lifted Himiko before putting her on his shoulder, but as soon as he removed his hands from her he could sense that Himiko had disappeared from his shoulder, which made him turned around quickly and saw a smiling Hanabi walked toward her seat while holding said fox in her hands. "Great, another bear hug," Himiko mumbled a bit before resigning herself to her fate as the little girl's plushie. "Well, that's your own fault for choosing that size. If you were a little bigger maybe they won't bear hug you like that. And have everyone attacking me for being a super size fox. No thanks, beside in this size I could cuddle myself in your neck every time I want to. Well, anytime I wasn't bear hugged by these girls anyway. Suit yourself then," Arashi said while smiling a bit when he saw that Hanabi had started rubbing her face at Himiko, an act which also took the attention of his friends including Hikari. And too bad for her that Arashi realized it and chose this exact time to eat his ramen as fast as he could. "Thank you for the food," Arashi said while clapping his hands together. "What?" came Hikari's response. She quickly turned around to spotted one empty ramen bowl in front of Arashi. She couldn't help but cursed herself for letting her guard down, giving her another failure in her reveal Arashi's mysterious face mission. "What's what?" Arashi asked. Realizing that she had said that one quite loud, Hikari quickly shook her hands before answering, "And no, it's nothing, sorry." Arashi knew that she was lying but decided to shrug it off before ordering yet another bowl of ramen. The next day, Konoha was having its time in the year. Flowers, stands and peoples could be seen covering the main street of Konoha. You could see kids running in the street while wearing a Hokage mask, or teenagers and adults chatting with each others while scanning every stands near them. All in all, it was happy day for everyone in Konoha. After all, they were having a festival to commemorate Yondaime Hokage's win against the fierce demon fox which once endangered Konoha and managed to kill a lot of shinobi of this village. Peoples were having a blast as they stopped doing their normal activity and decided to have some fun in the festival. Well, all but one. Look at them partying like there's no tomorrow. Are you sure that you don't want to go there? Nah, like I said before, I don't like this festival. All I got from it was bruises or a near-death experiences after all, was the answer that the red fox got from one Kazama Arashi. The red-haired boy could be seen sitting in a place where no other people could be seen, on top of Yondaime Hokage's head. Even before the morning could be seen, this boy had left his apartment to train before finally decided to take a rest in his favorite place, which was also the only safe place he could hide beside the Hokage mansion. Well, if you really insist about that, Himiko sighed before she transformed into her human form and took a seat next to Arashi. Before Arashi could said anything, the red-haired girl next to him quickly placed her hand on his head and pulled him down so that he was lying with his head on her lap. "Oh oi, what are you doing?" Arashi asked, confused. "Just shut up and relax. We're girlfriend and boyfriend already, so there's nothing wrong with this kind of affection, right?" Arashi couldn't find any answer for that, so he decided to stay quiet before he remembered something. "By the way, Himiko, where's your ear and tail?" "Oh that, Well, I've gotten used to hide those with genjutsu whenever I transform into my human form. Gotten used. But I've never seen you transform even once since we came to Konoha. Wait a second, so you were the reason that I sometimes feel pain in my arms and chest when I woke up in the morning. Arashi said while sitting up and point his right index finger toward Himiko. Ha ha ha, it seems I've gotten caught. Himiko laughed a bit while rubbing the back of her head. Sorry about that, I only wanted to try it once before but since it was really comfortable it became a habit. Himiko said while knocking her head sheepishly, which made Arashi sighed. Oh well, not that I lost anything because of that, but next time you want to do that please tell me beforehand, okay? You got it, master. Himiko put her right hand in front of her forehead pretending to give Arashi a salute before pulling his head back to her lap and rubbed his hair gently. The two of them stayed in a comfortable silence until they heard footsteps coming from behind. The two quickly stood up and looked behind them to saw a woman walking toward their position. The woman was wearing a black cloth and from what they saw she also brought something on her hand, but the one that took the two's attentions was the color of her hair, which was bloody red, just like theirs. Mom. Good morning you two, Kushina said when she spotted the two before walking toward them. Gee, good morning, Arashi said with a low voice while Himiko just nodded her head. I'm sorry if I disturbed you, to tell you the truth I never expect to meet anyone here. No, it's okay, we didn't expect anyone either. Arashi said quickly. Kushina smiled a bit after hearing that. A moment later she walked past Arashi and Kyubi before crouching at Yondaimi's head and put the thing she brought with her, which was ramen. Himiko said in confusion. Kushina giggled a bit when she heard Himiko's statement before standing up and faced her. That's right, is it strange? No, I didn't meant to insult or anything, I was only. Don't worry, I know it is quite strange to put a bowl of ramen here where there's no one to eat it. Kushina smiled before patting Himiko's head trying to calm her down. But, why are you doing something like this? Curiosity got the better of Arashi and before he knew it he had asked the question. Kushina's smile became a bit grim when she heard the question but decided to answer it. Actually, I am doing this for my son. Your son? Arashi said a bit hesitant. Kushina nodded her head before she sat down on the ground. Yes, the truth is he ran away from this village 5 years ago and haven't returned back ever since. He ran away. Why? Arashi asked again. Arashi-kun, is it really okay to ask that? Himiko asked, her voice was full of worry. Let him be, Himiko, he need to know what Kushina think about this. Arashi said quickly, although in the inside he was also worried about this. On one side he wanted to believe in Kushina but on the other side he also worried that Kushina still bore some hatred for his death. Kushina stayed silent for some time before started to speak. Because, this village was filled with stupid people, including me. A tear fell from her eyes when she said that, but before anyone could say anything she speak again. My son, he was a hero who protect our village from a demon, yet we were blinded by hatred and saw him as the demon itself. In the end, we threw our anger at him. He was beaten almost every day, and if not for some people who actually cared for him, he would have died by that time. I don't know how he did it, but he always endured those pain and smiled, but I know that he was crying deep down. And to make it worse, even I, his own mother, had treated him badly. Kushina could feel that tears had start flowing from her eyes but did nothing to stop it. Instead she just hugged her leg and continued her story. Yes, I never knew at that time, but after speaking with Sandaime-sama I realized that I had hurt my own son badly, that I have never tried to understand him, my own son, not even once. After saying those words Kushina slowly reached inside her cloth before pulling a really familiar pendant out. That pendant, she kept it. Arashi's eyes widened a bit when he saw it and couldn't help but smiled warmly when he realized that she had kept his last gift. This pendant was the last, and the only gift I ever really received from him. The truth is I had received some other gifts from him but I was still clouded by my own hatred at that time and I ended up destroyed or thrown away all of them. Kushina gazed at the pendant for some time before holding it on her chest with both hands. The day I received this, I made a promise to myself that if I ever meet him again, I will apologize to him. I know that my sin to him was too much to be forgotten by a simple apology, but I feel that if I don't do that, I won't be able to rest in peace. Of course it was his own decision whether to forgive me or not, I can't and won't interfere with. And I also won't blame him if he doesn't want to forgive me, but I really hope that someday he will forgive me for everything I did. Kushina hung her head down and cried silently after she said that, but she quickly pulled her head back up when she felt a hand touch her face and wiped her tears. Please don't worry about it, I'm sure that he will forgive you. Arashi said while smiling before standing up and turned toward Himiko, who was smiling warmly at him. Kushina didn't know how he did it, but this young boy had lifted all the sadness from her heart with those words. After wiping the rest of her tears, she stood up to her feet and smiled at the two teenagers in front of her. By the way, you still haven't told us about why you put the ramen here. Himiko said while putting her right index finger on her mouth. Ah, that's right. Actually, this was my son's favorite place, and that ramen was his favorite food. Ever since he left this village, I always came here at his birthday, which is today, while brought a bowl of ramen with me, hoping to be able to meet him here one day. Well, it seems your prayer was heard. Arashi thought happily before bowing toward his mother and walked away from that place, followed by Himiko. Kushina stared at the two teenagers who was walking away from her when all of a sudden she felt that she saw a silhouette of a little boy with blonde hair walking besides the mysterious boy before the silhouette stopped walking and turned around to face her with a smile on his face, a smile which she saw so many times in the past. Naruto. Her eyes widened at this, but before she could say anything a strong wind came, making her close her eyes, and when she opened them back, the two teenagers and the silhouette of her son had gone from her sight. She smiled a bit before turning around and gazed at the sky while holding the pendant and said, "Must be my imagination." Hope you guys enjoy first part of this story. Do like, share and subscribe.